Kazuma Sato is your average sleep-deprived shut-in. He is on his way back home after a 5-hour round trip to buy a game. Kazuma sees a girl from his high school about to be run over by a speeding truck. He lunges to push her out of harm's way, suddenly finding himself sitting on a chair in a strange dimension. The goddess Aqua appears and welcomes Kazuma to the afterlife, informing him of his death. Kazuma learns that the girl he pushed is still alive, and takes a sigh of relief knowing his sacrifice was not wasted. Aqua sets the record straight and tells Kazuma that he mistook a tractor for a truck, and it would have stopped for the girl anyway. She tells Kazuma that he died of shock thinking he was going to get hit. Good thing Kazuma wasn't at the funeral since he wasn't a morning person anyway. This amuses Aqua, and she makes fun of Kazuma, who is not pleased. Aqua introduces herself as the goddess who is in charge of guiding young humans from Japan who die in the afterlife. She presents Kazuma with two options: to lead a boring life in heaven or start a new life from square one. She proceeds to talk him into reincarnating into an RPG-like world to battle a demon king that has terrorized that world to the point that the local dead are refusing to reincarnate there, lowering the population of that world. Aqua adds that to defeat the demon king he can ask for any ability or powerful item. Kazuma asks her if he would be able to speak the language of that world. Aqua tells him that the language would automatically be installed into his brain. But she covers an important detail in the manual that she shows him, which states that his brain might turn into mush during the process. As Kazuma is selecting an ability from the leaflets, Aqua pesters him to hurry up as she has an entire book of dead souls to guide. Annoyed by Aqua, Kazuma chooses her as his cheat item. That's one way to bag a goddess. An angel appears and informs Kazuma that his request has been approved. She declares that she would be fulfilling Aqua's duties in her absence. Aqua is in disbelief. She protests that taking a goddess with you should be illegal. The angel tells Kazuma that if he defeats the demon king, the gods will grant him any wish he desires. Kazuma and Aqua are then magically transported into the city of Axel. Kazuma is fairly excited about going on an adventure in another world. He soon discovers a panicked Aqua who is neither capable of returning home nor able to provide him with any assistance in defeating the demon king. Kazuma suggests that they make their way to the guild HQ in order to gather intel, so the pair make their way to the guild. Upon reaching the guild, a ruffian points them towards the receptionist counter, where they discover that they cannot register as adventurers without paying a registration fee. The pair do not have any money between them and sit idly in the guild. Aqua sees a priest and approaches him. She informs him that she is the goddess of the Axis Order and demands money from him, only to learn he is a follower of the Eris Order that worships her junior goddess Eris. However, he still gives her money out of pity. After they make the payments, Luna, the receptionist, explains how the system with adventure cards and adventure classes works, stating that by defeating monsters they would earn points, which they could use to learn new skills. After getting their stats analyzed by the crystal ball, Kazuma discovers that he can only become a generic adventurer, while Aqua has the choice of becoming an archpriest, crusader, or swordmaster. Aqua chooses the archpriest class. Aqua's impressive stats astonish the entire guild. Someone should tell Aqua that those who show off seldom shine. The pair spend the next few weeks working at a construction site as laborers, drinking happily with their fellow workers, and sleeping peacefully in the dirty stables. Safe to say, Kazuma and Aqua were living the sweet life. One night, while they are sleeping, Kazuma wakes up suddenly. This catches Aqua off guard, and she asks him if he forgot to use the outhouse before bed. The next morning, Kazuma tells her that they were there to defeat the Demon King. They decide to take a kill quest for a day, and their adventure begins. Kazuma is not pleased with the lifestyle he is leading in the parallel world. He laments at the lack of financial security for beginner adventurers, due to which the pair is forced to sleep in the dirty stables. Can you blame him? He is not happy with Aqua sleeping peacefully till noon. He asks Aqua what happened to the terror spread by the Demon King since everything seemed peaceful in Axel. She explains that this city was the furthest from the Demon King's castle, and he would not attack a city with only novice adventurers in it. The pair embark on a kill quest to defeat 5 giant toads in 3 days. Killing them is a bit harsh when they could have just told them away. Kazuma finds himself running for his life from one of the giant toads in the grasslands outside of Axel. The giant toad can swallow people or livestock whole. Aqua is giggling at the sight of Kazuma bawling like a baby. Aqua wants Kazuma to ask her nicely to save him. Kazuma, who desperately needs saving, complies with Aqua's condition. Aqua starts to list more conditions, but she is swallowed by the toad instead. Giant toads, similar to your mom, do not move while they are eating, thus Kazuma does not miss his opportunity to kill it. Aqua, covered in toad saliva, clings on to Kazuma in a show of gratitude for saving her life. To redeem herself, Aqua charges at a giant toad that is pink-colored. She attacks it with her god blow in an attempt to kill it, however, it causes no damage. The toad proceeds to swallow Aqua, forcing Kazuma to save her again. Back at the guild, Kazuma laments at how they risked their lives but only got paid what part-time construction workers make. Aqua praises the fried toad. Aqua suggests they recruit new members to their party, stating that people would be lining up to join a party with an archpriest. The following day, the pair put out an advertisement looking for members of an advanced class, but they got no response. Kazuma suggests they lower the bar a little bit. A girl with eyes and a petite frame appears. She identifies herself as the arch-wizard Megumin and offers to join the party. Aqua, noticing the red eye, inquires if she is a crimson demon. Megumin tells her that she is, before collapsing due to hunger. While Kazuma and Megumin fight over the eye patch Megumin wears to appear more cool, Aqua explains how crimson demons are born with high intelligence and mana reserves. However, she adds that they have weird names and personalities. After ordering Megumin food, they take her outside to resume their battle against the giant toads. Megumin asks Aqua and Kazuma to stall a giant toad as it takes some time to conjure explosion magic spells. Aqua runs towards a gray giant toad and uses her God Requiem attack on it, only to be gobbled up again. Meanwhile, Megumin uses her explosion magic on a purple giant toad, and the giant toad becomes a huge crater. The explosion results in a nearby giant toad waking up. When Kazuma asks Megumin to regroup, he sees her passed out. Exhausted from the spell she cast, Megumin is unable to avoid being eaten by the green giant toad. This forces Kazuma to save both girls by killing the toads. This feat completes the quest. As the party makes their way back to town, Megumin explains how she is only able to cast explosion magic once per day before collapsing from exhaustion, due to its high power, an integral addition to this party of misfits. Megumin also refuses to learn any other type of magic apart from explosion magic, as she is obsessed with it. Aqua boasts about learning all the party skills in addition to all archpriest magic. Kazuma tries to ditch Megumin, but she creates a scene on the streets, forcing him to keep her in the party. Back at the guild, the girls are off bathing while Kazuma collects the rewards from Luna. Kazuma is not happy with the rewards, but he is still too low-leveled to embark on more difficult and more rewarding quests. A new member called Darkness approaches him and asks if they are still recruiting. She introduces herself as a crusader. Darkness asks Kazuma if Megumin and Aqua are his party members. She inquires what has happened to them. Kazuma tells her that they were swallowed by giant toads, which explains the slime. Darkness looks pleased over the terrible fate that had befallen two young girls. Kazuma tries to turn her away by stating that their party comprises useless members. However, Darkness is persistent. She tells him that even though she is confident in her strength, her clumsiness always causes her to miss her target. The next morning, Kazuma arrives at the Adventurers Guild, only to see Aqua showing off her nature's beauty skill to the guild members. He dismisses it as a party trick. Kazuma asks Megumin if he could learn skills if someone taught him. She explains to him that once someone demonstrates a skill to him, it would appear on his card. If he spends points on that entry, he would learn it. Megumin gets upset shortly after Kazuma calls her a lowly girl. Darkness appears and asks to join the party again, but Kazuma is quick to shoot down her request. A thief named Chris appears, and she introduces herself as Darkness's friend. Chris agrees to teach Kazuma thief skills in exchange for a drink. Her offer is accepted by Kazuma. Will he use these skills to steal someone's heart? The three make their way outside. Chris shows Kazuma a skill called Steal, and in doing so steals his wallet. She then challenges Kazuma to recover his money by using Steal on Chris. Darkness is concerned as Kazuma was still new to this. Kazuma acquires the skill by using 1 point on his card. Chris adds that if he loses the challenge, all he would get is a handful of rocks. Determined not to lose, Kazuma steals Chris's panties, gaining Darkness's awe, and they say chivalry is dead. The three return to the guild, where Darkness briefs Aqua and Megumin about how Kazuma stole Chris's panties and all the money she had after she taught the steal skill to him. Kazuma then demonstrates the skill again, only to steal Megumin's panties this time. Darkness once again expresses her desire to join their party, but is once again denied permission by Kazuma. Aqua and Megumin see no reason not to let Darkness join their party, so in a last-ditch effort to scare Chris and Darkness, Kazuma reveals that his party is going to battle the Demon King. His plan backfires as it increases the conviction of Megumin and Darkness to stick with the party. An emergency is broadcasted by Luna across Axel, asking all the adventurers to assemble outside the city gates. This creates a frenzy and panic among the townsfolk, who go into hiding. Upon assembly outside the city gates, Darkness tells Kazuma that she will protect him. Kazuma is dumbfounded as the quest is to harvest a swarm of flying cabbages trying to enter the city. Aqua explains that cabbages can fly in this world, and couch potatoes become adventurers. Luna asks the adventurers to place the harvested cabbages in the humane free-range, organic storage containers. Darkness, after missing every one of her attacks, starts shielding injured adventurers. The onlookers are amazed by her sacrifice, but Kazuma identifies her masochistic enjoyment. Megumin unleashes her explosion magic on the swarm, defeating the entire swarm. Everyone is feasting back at the guild. Kazuma cannot believe how good the cabbage tastes in this world. Aqua compliments Darkness on her toughness. Megumin adds that Aqua's nature's beauty boosted everyone's morale on the battlefield and preserved the freshness of the harvested cabbages with cold water. They express their awe of Kazuma's technique, which consisted of him using the lurk skill to sneak up behind the cabbages and then using steel to immobilize them. Aqua gives him the title of the Great Cabbage Thief. Darkness asks to join the party once again, as now Kazuma has witnessed her battle prowess. She is accepted into the party. Kazuma learns some new basic magic skills that create elements. Darkness shows Kazuma her newly repaired armor and asks him for his opinion. Kazuma blatantly tells her that it was something a wanted aristocrat Nouveau's son would wear. Megumin is lusting over her newly acquired magic manatite rod, which she bought from her rewards from the cabbage harvest. Luna tells Aqua that she would only get a small reward as most of her yield of cabbages had cheap lettuces mixed in it. Aqua then approaches Kazuma and asks him how much money they made. Kazuma shocks the entire party when he reveals he made $1 million. Aqua then begs Kazuma to help her pay off the debt she owes to the guild hall. Finally, Aqua makes Kazuma pay off her debt after she blackmails him. You know what they say, more money, more problems. The next day, Kazuma replaces his tracksuit with an outfit that fits in with the fantasy adventure trope. He states that he is going to adopt a shieldless, sword mage fighting style. The girls want to embark on a kill quest as soon as possible. Megumin wants one with a lot of small and weak monsters to test out her new staff. Darkness wants one with powerful monsters, and Aqua is looking forward to one with high rewards. Be careful what you wish for, as one of the Demon King's vassals has stationed himself near Axel. All the weak monsters have gone into hiding, leaving only the hardest quests for the adventurers. Back at the stables, Aqua is confident in her ability to take down the vassal. Kazuma laments at the revelation that they would not be able to find work until capable adventurers are sent from the imperial capital to take care of the situation. The next day, Kazuma accompanies Megumin outside the city. Megumin uses her explosion magic to destroy an abandoned castle. Megumin and Kazuma made their castle practice a part of their daily routine and continued for weeks. Aqua found a job while Darkness left for home to do some weight training. Kazuma is lounging in the stables when Aqua enters with a bucket full of leftovers. Kazuma tells her that he is considering giving up on defeating the Demon King, leaving the task to other adventurers who had been sent to defeat him before him. Kazuma continues to verbally lash Aqua, which makes her burst into tears. Luna asks all adventurers to gather outside the city gates and prepare for battle at once. Outside the gates, Verdia, the Demon King's vassal, is bellowing with rage over someone casting explosion magic over his castle every single day. He demands to know the identity of the caster of the explosion spells. All the adventurers look at an innocent female wizard, deeming her the culprit for the attacks. Megumin steps forward. Verdia is visibly irritated. He asks Megumin to either assault the castle or stay in town, to stop the underhanded harassment. Megumin introduces herself as the strongest wizard in town and reveals to the vassal that casting explosion spells on his castle was part of her plan to lure him to the town. 100 IQ played by Megumin. Megumin asks Aqua to help her. Before she can do anything, Verdia casts a premonition of death spell at Megumin. Darkness intercepts it and is hit with the curse instead. Verdia is at first amused by the prospect of Megumin being consumed by guilt. However, he gets unsettled when he finds Darkness turned on at the prospect of the vassal torturing her by performing acts of deplorable debauchery on her, Darkness, the most normal member of the party. She tells Verdia that he could do anything he wants with her body, but he would never be able to take control of her heart. Kazuma stops her from going with the vassal. Verdia then tells Megumin to make her way to his castle if she wants to save her friend before vanishing. Megumin starts to make her way to the castle. Kazuma decides to join her since if she went there alone she would end up using her magic on a Pian. Aqua casts a spell and lifts the curse from darkness. The adventurers cheer for Aqua, and she starts to show off her party skills to the onlookers. Kazuma is not satisfied with the kind of life he is leading in the parallel world. He was expecting to fight ferocious dragons with cursed or holy swords, and here he was taking care of a useless goddess. The party members gather at the guild. Aqua states that she is tired of constantly being in debt and will be looking for a new quest, despite there only being the hard ones left due to the Dullahan. Aqua goes to look for a quest, which Kazuma prevents her from choosing a ridiculously hard one. Aqua finally picks one that requires the purification of a lake near Axel, which would lead the brutal alligators infesting it to leave. Aqua states that it would take her half a day to purify the entire lake, even though she only has to touch the water to purify it. Kazuma rents a small iron cage from the guild and locks Aqua in it for protection. The rest of the party accompanies her to the riverhead lake where they lower her cage into shallow water, in order for Aqua to start the purification. Kazuma, Megumin, and Darkness observe her from a distance. Meanwhile, Kazuma discovers that Aqua or Megumin never have to go to the bathroom. He vows that the next quest they go on will be longer than a day so he can find out for sure. Suddenly, the brutal alligators appear around Aqua's cage and start attacking it, leading Aqua to start casting purification spells like her life depended on it. It literally did. 7 hours later, the lake has been fully purified and the brutal alligators have left. The party members gather around Aqua's cage, but she is too traumatized to come out of it and demands to be taken back to town in the cage. Mitsurugi Kyoya, a sword master who's a reincarnate from Japan, is on a quest to subjugate an ancient dragon. Mitsurugi wields his cursed sword Gram, which was gifted to him for exclusive use by Aqua. His loyal companions Cremia and Fio are amazed at his abilities when he defeats the dragon. Mitsurugi returns to Axel with Cremia and Fio, who are fighting over the lucky swordmaster. When he hears Aqua singing, he follows her voice only to find her trapped in a cage. Mitsurugi rushes to her rescue and breaks her cage open with his bare hands. Who said chivalry was dead, though Mitsurugi was. Aqua exits the cage in high spirits after Kazuma reminds her that she is a goddess. Is vanity a sin if even a goddess can't help herself? However, she does not remember who Kyoya is. Mitsurugi is not pleased with Kazuma for bringing Aqua to this world, locking her in a cage, and then making her sleep in a stable. When he gets too confrontational, Darkness intervenes. Mitsurugi offers all of Kazuma's party members a spot in his party. However, all of the girls turn him down because they think he's a creep. Mitsurugi challenges Kazuma to duel with Aqua as the wager. Kazuma accepts and uses steel to get Mitsurugi's cursed sword Gram. He then uses it to knock Mitsurugi out. Cremia and Fio begin shouting at Kazuma for knocking out their beloved Mitsurugi. However, when Kazuma threatens them with steel, they run away. Who knew the steel skill and creepy advances could get Kazuma this far? Did someone call him a one-trick pony? The following day, Aqua is screaming at Luna at the guild. A depressed Aqua comes and sits next to Kazuma, telling him that after deducting the cost of the broken cage, she was only left with 100,000 eris. With tears in her eyes, Aqua vows to use God Blow on Mitsurugi the next time she sees him. Mitsurugi appears and calls out Kazuma for his actions against women, including Chris. An irritated Aqua attacks him using God Blow before he can finish his sentence. He pays Aqua 300,000 eris in damages, which cheers her up. It's an evil world, guys. Mitsurugi asks Kazuma to return his sword only to find out that he had already sold it. Darkness asks Kazuma why Mitsurugi kept calling Aqua a goddess. Aqua reveals her true identity to Darkness and Megumin, who refuse to believe her. Luna broadcasts a message to all adventurers, urging all adventurers to assemble at the city gates, especially Kazuma's party, where an upset Verdia is waiting for them since they did not go to his castle. Verdia returns to the city gates, anger clear on his face. He demands to know why Kazuma and the others haven't come to the castle yet. Kazuma, confused, says they haven't been casting explosion magic on him anymore. Verdia accuses them of lying and points at Megumin, calling her the crazy Crimson Girl, saying she still casts spells on his castle every day. Shocked, Kazuma starts pinching Megumin, who begs him to stop and listen. She explains that she used to cast her spells on barren plains and wastelands, but after experiencing the pleasure of casting them on the castle, she couldn't stop. Kazuma remains visibly angry with her. He realizes Megumin can't move after casting her magic, so he questions who helped her. Guessing it's Aqua, he starts pinching her too, making her cry out. Verdia, furious, accuses them of letting Darkness die from his curse. Darkness, flattered by being called a model knight, steps forward, shocking Verdia by being alive. Just like your folks must have been surprised you survived the hanger beating during pregnancy. Aqua laughs at him for not realizing his curse was dispelled, mocking him for waiting the whole time, just like you and your one-sided relationships. This angers him more. Aqua then casts a spell on Verdia, making him roll in pain on the ground. Surprised by her power, Verdia summons an army of undead knights and orders them to slaughter the city's inhabitants. The undead knights chase Aqua instead, since they instinctively seek salvation from a goddess. Aqua cries out asking Karma for help. Megumin can't cast her spell if the undead knights keep moving. Kazuma comes up with a plan to help Megumin. Aqua and Kazuma run at Verdia before jumping clear so that Megumin can cast Explosion on all the undead grouped together, earning her new nicknames from the other adventurers. Verdia survives the explosion. A band of adventurers attack him. Verdia throws his head in the air to observe the whole battlefield and cuts them all down. Verdia asks everyone who wishes to be next, but no one steps forwards. A teammate of Mitsurugi warns Verdia that when he arrives he will slay Verdia in a single blow. That's when Kazuma realizes that she's talking about the same guy whose sword he stole and then sold. Verdia starts moving towards the city with his sword, and that's when Darkness comes forward to stop Verdia's, yet misses with every attack. Verdia's attacks tear her armor and clothes, making Darkness go into another fantasizing fit, just like your mom when she sees me. Kazuma seizes the chance to create water, which Verdia dodges. Kazuma then freezes him in place. However, he fails to steal Verdia's sword due to their level differences. Verdia continues attacking Darkness while Kazuma desperately tries to think of a weakness. Kazuma remembers that the undead are vulnerable to water, so he starts creating water with the other mages. As Verdia dodges the water, Kazuma persuades Aqua to cast Sacred Create Water spell, summoning a flood powerful enough to damage the city's outer walls. Verdia tries to run, but Darkness holds onto his leg, preventing his escape. Verdia gets hit by the water. Aqua shouts at Kazuma, saying this is his chance. Verdia stands his ground, claiming that although he's weakened, a beginner adventurer will never be able to steal his weapon. He throws his head in the sky again, saying that he will end this once and for all. Kazuma, unaffected by his words, steals from the weakened Verdia and obtains his head instead of his sword. He calls all the guys and asks them to play soccer with the head. He sets the rule that they can only use their feet and not their hands. They all begin playing. Darkness suggests that now that he's so weak they should show him a bit of mercy. Verdia cries out asking them to stop playing with his head. Kazuma calls out Aqua to perform the purifying spell on him. She does exactly that and blows Verdia away. The sky clears up. Darkness prays for the adventurers that lost their lives during the battle, only to find to her embarrassment that they had already been resurrected by Aqua. The next day at the guild, the adventurers are celebrating. Kazuma tells his party that now they have some money, he wants to go back to being a shut-in. Luna informs him that they get a special reward for defeating Verdia, but they also have to pay for the flood damage to the city. This puts them in heavy debt again, making Kazuma determined to defeat the Devil King so he can leave this world. Kazuma wakes up in a familiar place and soon realizes it's where he met Aqua, and she offered to join him in the game. He understands that he has died once again, like my will to live, on a freezing winter day, while other adventurers stay indoors enjoying their rewards for defeating Verdia. Kazuma wishes for more money to pay off his party's huge debt. He slams his hands on the table, saying he needs more money. Aqua tells him to stop whining and get back to work if he wants more money, reminding him that she's a goddess and he's making her sleep in a horse stable every night. Kazuma gets mad and reminds her that they're in debt because of her. He angrily says that when he woke up, his eyebrows were frozen, and if he has to sleep in the stable another day, he'll freeze to death. Aqua gets mad, saying it wasn't her fault, and if it wasn't for her, they wouldn't have beaten Verdia. They continue making a fuss, and that's when Darkness and Megumin walk in and they all start browsing for a quest. When browsing the quest board, Kazuma rejects the ones for subjugating white wolves and one-punch bears that Darkness and Megumin choose. Then he notices a quest to scout out something called the Destroyer. He and Aqua decide on the quest to kill snow sprites, which unsettles Megumin and excites Darkness. The reward for this quest is 100,000 eris each. Aqua rushes to get ready for the quest while Darkness starts fantasizing about it. They put on winter clothes and hike to the snowy forest where snow sprites gather. Kazuma slices at the running snow sprites while Aqua catches and bottles them for summer cooling. Kazuma thinks to himself that if his kill count is too low, he will kill the sprites Aqua caught too. They keep hunting the snow sprites while Megumin asks Kazuma if she can use an explosion to get rid of them. Kazuma agrees and tells her to wipe them all out. Megumin starts using her explosion magic and then collapses after blasting 8 snow sprites. Kazuma checks on her and asks if she's okay. He questions why don't all the adventurers pick this quest at killing the snow sprites seems easy. Suddenly, they see a big snowstorm coming towards them. Kazuma is confused while Darkness gets excited. Aqua starts explaining to Kazuma why adventurers don't usually go on snow sprite quests. She warns him about a winter monster, one of the most deadly monsters in the country, with a huge bounty on his head. Sounds like your mom. The winter shogun which protects the snow sprites emerges from the snowstorm. Darkness excitedly starts fantasizing. Kazuma starts cursing everything about this world and calls everything stupid. The winter shogun monster takes out his sword, walks towards Darkness and cuts the blade of her sword in an instant. Kazuma is still freaking out. Aqua tells him that sprites pick up the subconscious thoughts of the people they encounter and take their form. Aqua releases the captured snow sprites while saying to them that the General Winter is merciful and if they apologize from the bottom of their hearts, he will let them go. She bows down and starts apologizing while advising her companions to drop their weapons and ask him for forgiveness. Darkness, however, is too prideful to do that. Kazuma rushes forward to press her head down, but having forgotten to drop his sword, he is beheaded by the Winter Shogun. In the afterlife dimension, Eris offers him her condolences. Kazuma whines about his reincarnated life and his party members, who are safe after the Winter Shogun's departure. When Eris first tells him about reincarnating him back to Japan, he gets excited and puts forward a long list of wishes about how he would like to be reincarnated. But when Eris is about to reincarnate him to Japan, he finds himself weeping as he misses his companions. Aqua calls for Kazuma's soul to return to his body, on which she had already cast resurrection, and overrules Eris's law against opening the door of the afterlife by threatening to confiscate her chest pads. Back in the parallel world, Kazuma is hugged by the relieved Megumin and Darkness, but he refuses to thank Aqua for resurrecting him and feels disappointed when comparing her to Eris. He decides they are too weak to take on winter quests. When they return to the guild, Aqua shows them a captured snow sprite she kept hidden. Kazuma demands she give it to him so he can claim the kill reward for himself, but she refuses to let anyone kill it because she plans to use it as a refrigerator. Kazuma considers Eris the main heroine and is disenchanted with his gluttonous companions with their odd personalities. Aqua warms herself by the campfire outside the freezing stables, but Kazuma stops her from using his tracksuit as fuel. He shouts at her, telling her that it's the last piece of anything Japanese that he has. Annoyed, Aqua asks what else they have left to burn as the fire is dying out. They start arguing over it, but unfortunately, the fire goes out completely. Aqua begins to cry, and Kazuma realizes he can't tolerate this situation any longer. He decides that he needs to take action. They walk together, and Kazuma mentions that their party is missing something. He suggests that they need a skill that they can use repeatedly as their primary source of power. They arrive at Liz's shop, although Aqua is unaware of this fact. Outside the door, Kazuma asks Aqua not to throw a tantrum. Aqua becomes angry, questioning what he thinks of her. They enter Wiz's shop, and as soon as Aqua sees Wiz, she loses her composure and starts cursing at her. Kazuma hits Aqua with his sword to make her stop. Aqua takes a seat and rudely asks for tea. Wiz rushes to get some. Kazuma explains that Wiz is actually a lich, despite her appearance as an ordinary human. Wiz is known as the No-Life King, but she is truly kind-hearted. Every night, she sends spirits from the graveyard up to heaven. Wiz returns with tea for them, and Kazuma has to repeatedly prevent Aqua from trying to purify the lich shop owner. This is because Wiz insulted the Axis Order and revealed herself to be one of the 8 Devil King's generals. However, unlike Verdia, Wiz never harmed people and simply assisted in maintaining the magic barrier surrounding the Devil King's castle. Kazuma asks Wiz if she's angry at them for defeating Verdia. but she explains she was never close to him. She shares that he used to disrespect her by throwing his head at her feet when she passed by. Kazuma expresses interest in learning lick skills, so Wiz teaches him Drain Touch to thank him for letting her go. However, when she tries it on Aqua, she almost purifies her until Kazuma intervenes. Feeling weak after the incident, Wiz tells them about a job from a real estate broker to get rid of ghosts in a mansion they can stay in. They move in and start cleaning, while Aqua tells stories about the ghost haunting the place. At night, Aqua discovers someone has drunk her favorite drink. Angry, she starts casting Turn Undead spells on any ghost she finds in the mansion needing to use the bathroom. Kazuma wakes up in the middle of the night and sees dolls surrounding him. He rushes to Aqua's room with the dolls following him, but finds only Megumin inside, who also needs to go. Unable to get help from Aqua or Darkness, they argue over how to handle the situation until more dolls burst in through the window. They reach the bathroom, but Kazuma pulls Megumin out before she can put on her pants when the dolls return. They hide in another room until the dolls try to break in. With Megumin panicking and chanting spells for explosion, Kazuma tries to escape, only to discover Aqua has already purified the possessed dolls. The next day, Kazuma and Aqua go to the guild to collect their reward for getting rid of the ghosts. Luna explains that the ghosts infested the mansion because someone cast a magic barrier preventing them from entering the nearby public cemetery. Kazuma realizes it was Aqua's doing. Under pressure, Aqua admits she set the barrier to avoid purifying the cemetery every day. They decide not to accept the reward. Later, Wiz visits a grave in the mansion yard while Kazuma cleans. The scene is interrupted when Kazuma has to rush in to save his tracksuit from being used as firewood. As Megumin and Darkness play a board game looking like chess in the living room, Aqua pesters Kazuma into giving her the sofa seat before the fireplace, a request he complies with out of pity upon realizing that her intelligence will never improve. Aqua questions him, asking why he is looking at her with pity in his eyes. Kazuma walks away while thinking to himself how they have acquired a mansion and solved their most pressing problem, which was to find a place to ride out the winter. But he says that they still have many other problems left to solve. The next day, while hanging out downtown, Kazuma spots Dust and Keith hanging around an alley. He approaches them and asks what they're up to. They confess they're gathering the courage to enter a cafe run by Succubi, where they promise sweet dreams exclusively for male adventurers. Kazuma decides to join them and enters the cafe, where he's seated next to the ruffian. The receptionist Succubus explains how the cafe works. They grant men realistic dreams of any erotic experience they desire in exchange for a bit of their vitality. Excitedly, Kazuma fills out his request form, asking for a beautiful, sexually inexperienced older woman instead of naming a specific partner he knows. Back at the mansion, Kazuma discovers his friends cooking crabs that Darkness's family sent as a housewarming gift. They all eagerly enjoy the meal. However, when Aqua suggests drinking hot bubbly from the crab shell, Kazuma declines, fearing he won't be able to dream if he gets too drunk. He decides to go to bed early. Aqua plays around mimicking the destroyer. Kazuma lays in his bed, but is too nervous to sleep. He opts for a bath instead and ends up dozing off in the tub. Awakened by a naked Darkness entering to take a bath, Kazuma believes his dream has started. He boldly instructs Darkness to wash his back. Despite her discomfort at having her submissive fantasies abruptly realized and concerns about Aqua or Megumin catching them, Darkness can't resist complying with his increasingly demanding requests. However, as Darkness starts drying him off, Aqua's alarm about an intruder interrupts. Rushing out to investigate, Kazuma discovers a newbie Succubus sent to induce his dream, trapped in Aqua's magic barrier around the mansion. Realizing he's not dreaming, Kazuma helps the Succubus escape, but Aqua, Megumin, and Darkness, convinced he's been charmed, beat him up. The next morning, Kazuma and Darkness stand outside near the grave in the mansion's yard. Kazuma sweeps away fallen leaves and dust off the grave with a broom, both avoiding eye contact. Kazuma breaks the silence, urging Darkness to talk to him. He mentions that she's also part of the problem since she chose to stay for the journey. Darkness is surprised by his words, asking if he doesn't remember anything from last night because of the Succubus's spell. Kazuma pretends to be under the spell, casually mentioning that he can't recall anything except having a sweet dream. Darkness then dismisses the topic, saying she won't dwell on it, indicating she doesn't want to discuss what happened as it's in the past. Darkness calls it an accident. Meanwhile, Kazuma internally acknowledges that he was indeed under the Succubus's spell and decides to stick to that story as his alibi. He believes it's the best way to get out of this situation without considering his own feelings. Darkness continues, mentioning that he seemed observant and even intimidating last night, but she shyly admits it wasn't entirely unpleasant. However, she also asserts that it was unacceptable for him to impose his desires on her just because she was unaware of them. Kazuma defends himself, stating that she's not really an inexperienced young noblewoman and needs to learn how to be a decent, normal person. He tries to clear his name further by mentioning that he took precautions like lighting up the lantern and putting up the bath in use sign, implying someone else must have tampered with them. Darkness is shocked, realizing he remembers the events of last night and questions if he was truly under the succubus's spell. Kazuma simply returns to sweeping the grave. Meanwhile, Luna makes an emergency broadcast about the mobile fortress destroyer approaching Axel. As Luna issues a warning for townsfolk to evacuate and urges adventurers to gather at the guild, Aqua and Megumin hastily pack their belongings to escape from the mobile fortress destroyer. Darkness warns that it will destroy everything in its path, but Kazuma is determined to save their newly acquired home. After a meeting with other adventurers, prompted by Chris, Kazuma devises a plan to counter the ancient weapon expected to reach Axel within an hour. Meanwhile, Darkness stands guard outside the city walls as construction workers build barricades. During this time, she confesses to Kazuma her real name and true identity as a noblewoman tasked with defending her territory. Aqua climbs onto the city walls as the destroyer appears, and she shatters its magic barrier with a sacred break spell. This allows Megumin and Wiz to blast its legs with explosions, causing it to stop moving. However, when the other adventurers celebrate their victory, the destroyer sends out a warning about its upcoming self-destruction. Instead of running away, Darkness charges towards the destroyer, fueled by her masochistic excitement. Seeing this, the other adventurers believe she's trying to stop the destruction and join her, some also aiming to save the succubus cafe. Leaving Megumin outside, who's unable to move, Kazuma leads Aqua and Wiz to search for the control room. Inside, they find the remains of the head researcher who built the destroyer. Reading his diary, they learn he constructed the fortress to avoid execution, but ended up trapped on it when it went on a rampage. The destruction began with the kingdom that built it. Wiz uses Drain Touch on Kazuma to boost her magical energy, enabling her to randomly teleport the Coronatite, the destroyer's power source, as directed by Kazuma. However, the destroyer has accumulated so much heat that it threatens to incinerate the city. As everyone evacuates, Kazuma drains power from Aqua to recharge Megumin, who was carried along by the ruffian, allowing her to unleash her second explosion of the day, blowing the destroyer into pieces. As the people of Axel resume their lives, Kazuma reflects on how their battle against the mobile fortress destroyer has ended. He thinks that this world isn't the thrilling adventure-filled place he had hoped for. Kazuma criticizes his party, calling them useless freaks, and expresses dissatisfaction with his own circumstances. He recalls sleeping in stables until he could afford a house and describes every day as an agonizing nightmare. That is indeed how I would describe my days. However, he considers that these challenges might be opportunities for personal growth. Laughing to himself, he sees his experiences as a long tutorial. Suddenly, Aqua bursts into his room, sounding panicked, and informs him that they're in trouble as knights are approaching from the royal capital. Kazuma casually wonders if the knights are here to deliver their reward in person. Then he figures they might be, declaring that his real adventure is about to start. Back at the guild, Kazuma and the other adventurers meet the knights from the royal capital. One of the knights accuses Kazuma of subverting the state and announces his arrest. Kazuma is stunned. The knight explains that the Coronatite, which Kazuma teleported at his direction, destroyed Overlord Aldarp's mansion. He struggles to process this shocking revelation. Aqua adds insult to injury by commenting that he won't be getting a reward. Meanwhile, Megumin tries to make a quick exit, claiming she has another adventure to attend to, but Kazuma intervenes and stops her. Kazuma reflects on how things never seem to go the way he wants in this world, which makes it feel so lousy. Meanwhile, Aqua starts panicking, continuously telling Kazuma he's a criminal and worrying about how they'll be able to slay the Demon King without him. Kazuma feels disconnected from reality. In his mind, he addresses God, asking if he ever gets another chance to go to a parallel world, to please send him to a wonderful place where he can actually do something cool. Kazuma orders the Coronatite core of the destroyer to be teleported, which then blows up the local governor Aldarp's mansion. Though there are no casualties, the royal prosecutor Sina accuses him of treason. As Kazuma and Aqua panic, Megumin and Darkness defend him. even though they reveal he sexually harassed them. Other adventurers also defend Kazuma, but they back off when Sina threatens to arrest them as accomplices of treason, showing she has no problem putting others in prison for the same charges. Kazuma tries to escape but gets caught by knights and thrown into prison, much to the shock of the adventurers at the guild. Sitting on the floor of his cell, Kazuma feels tears rolling down his cheeks. He realizes how much he did for the people of the town, only to be abandoned by them. He is also deeply disappointed that even his friends didn't stand by him during this difficult time. Must be relatable to you. That night, as Kazuma mopes, Megumin and Darkness create a distraction outside Axel with a powerful explosion spell, allowing Aqua to attempt a rescue. Aqua whispers to Kazuma through the small window in his cell, telling him she is here to save him. Kazuma, still hurt and confused, questions her, asking why she didn't defend him in the first place. Aqua explains to Kazuma that Megumin used her explosion magic on the outskirts of town, causing the guards to rush off to investigate. She tells him that Darkness should be running away with the exhausted Megumin as they speak. Kazuma, seeking reassurance, asks if running from prison like this will make things worse. Aqua informs him that she heard he could be executed for subversive activities. She reminds him that as an adventurer with a suspicious identity, the authorities could easily manipulate the truth, leading to his death. Kazuma mutters to himself about how this parallel world truly has the cultural level of the Middle Ages. He then asks Aqua how he is supposed to get out of there. She throws a lock pin through his window and explains that he needs to use the wire to pick the cell's lock, and after that, he can use his stealth skill to escape the jail. She elaborates that once he gets out, they will return to the mansion and prepare to skip town. However, Kazuma decides to go to sleep instead. We all have our priorities, I guess, because the lockpick she gives him cannot open the combination lock on his cell. The following night, after another explosion, Aqua gives Kazuma a hacksaw to cut the window bars. However, the bars are too high for him to reach because Aqua fails to deliver a stepping crate. She tries to bring it as a gift, but the guard becomes suspicious of her due to her loitering the previous night. Kazuma had neglected to tell her he had given up on the lock. The next day, Sina interrogates Kazuma with a magical lie detector. She forces him to admit that he was a shut-in as she inquires about his origins. The interrogation clears him of willfully teleporting the Coronatite. However, when Sina routinely asks if Kazuma had any dealings with the Devil King's generals, he is caught because Wiz is one of the generals. Kazuma is put on trial. Sina calls Chris, Mitsurui, Cremia, and Fio as character witnesses, and they testify about Kazuma's crimes of harassment, theft, and intimidation. Megumin and Aqua object, pointing out the lack of evidence for treason. However, they soon learn that Sina has plenty of evidence, including their actions of flooding the town and casting excessive explosions. Inspired by one of Aldarp's comments, Kazuma makes a declaration that he is neither a terrorist nor working for the Devil King's army. The lie detector confirms his statement, affirming his innocence in this regard. The judge pronounces Kazuma not guilty but changes his mind and sentences Kazuma to death when Aldarp expresses his displeasure. Seeing no alternative, Darkness reveals her family crest from the house Dustiness. She asks for the sentencing to be postponed so she can prove Kazuma's innocence, promising to owe Aldarp a favor in return. Aldarp agrees and Darkness goes to deal with him, leaving her companions worried about her chastity. Meanwhile, knights charge into the party's mansion to repossess their personal property to pay off their debt, which has now multiplied due to the damages to Aldarp's mansion. As Kazuma and Aqua sit freezing in their mansion, worried sick about Darkness, Megumin asks for permission to keep a cat she calls Chomasuk. The cat is friendly to Kazuma but hostile to Aqua. Kazuma and Aqua explain that Darkness would provoke Aldarp to sexually abuse her, and this would throw Megumin into a panic. Senna gives Kazuma the task of subduing the giant toads in the snowy grasslands around Axel because Megumin's repeated explosions awaken them before the trial. Aqua is chased by a pink giant toad, while Megumin, exhausted, is being swallowed by another one. Kazuma is initially frightened when he sees Megumin halfway inside the big green toad's mouth, but he promises to rescue her. However, she asks him to help Aqua first. Megumin comments that it's really cold outside, but inside the toad's mouth, it's pretty warm. Girl has her priorities straight. She mentions that since she has already cast her magic explosion, all she can do is slow this one down. Kazuma agrees and leaves Megumin to it. Sina questions if that's a good idea. Kazuma snipes the one chasing Aqua with an arrow, but it's not strong enough to kill it. He uses his sword when it's busy swallowing Aqua. He rescues Aqua by making it spit her out, and she lays on the ground crying, covered in sticky liquid. 3 more giant toads of varying colors approach and gobble up Aqua and Sina. Megumin also asks Kazuma to help her now as she's almost swallowed by the toad. Just when Kazuma is about to be eaten too, Union annihilates all of the giant toads with a light of saber, releasing the girls, now covered in smelly slime. Megumin pretends not to recognize her self-proclaimed rival who just saved her until she makes an embarrassing Crimson Demon-style introduction. After Aqua and Sina take their leave, Megumin agrees to a contest in hand-to-hand combat. Union admits defeat because Megumin is covered in slime, but Megumin still hugs Union to get her all slimy. On their way back, Megumin hands Kazuma the manatite she stole from Union so he can start paying back some of the debt. He tells Megumin she is prettier than Union, so she gives him a slimy hug too. Back at the mansion, Kazuma and Megumin compete to be the first to bathe and end up going into the bathtub together. They both sit in the bathtub, relaxing. Kazuma asks Megumin about Union, questioning if she will be okay. Megumin assures him, saying that she's certain they will meet her again, as she chases after her, claiming to be her rival. Kazuma hits her with another question, asking about Union's age. Megumin replies by asking him to just come out and say what he was thinking when he was looking at her just now. Kazuma lets out a slight chuckle and says that he was just thinking about how everybody matures at their own pace. Megumin starts using her magic to mess with Kazuma, and he asks her to stop as it's unsettling him. She tells him that she's sure that in a year or two, she will have a better body than Union, and then Union will come to her crying, asking for forgiveness. Well, I guess delusion isn't a crime. Kazuma starts thinking about something, and Megumin asks him to stop staring at her. After a pause, Kazuma questions why they are even in the bath together. Megumin asks him why it's suddenly occurring to him after all this time. He explains that he was just thinking that if anyone sees him like this, they wouldn't react nicely. By the time it occurs to them that this puts them in a compromising position, Aqua has returned from selling toad meat to the guild, so Kazuma uses his magical power to freeze the bathroom door shut. Aqua calls out to Megumin but refrains from entering, prompting Kazuma to express relief that he won't be mistaken for a Drake fan, considering Megumin's age. Megumin becomes enraged because she is sensitive about her age. Unable to move due to having exhausted his energy on the freeze spell, Kazuma has to cry out to Aqua to save him from Megumin, resulting in him being branded and neat all the same. The next day, Kazuma takes his group to Wiz's shop to discuss settling his debts. They find Union waiting there. As Megumin recalls how Union was a loner during their school days, Aqua notices a friendship crystal for sale. Union challenges Megumin to use the crystal, which reveals footage of their most embarrassing moments. Wiz explains that it's meant to foster friendship, but it only makes Megumin angry, leading her to smash the crystal and claim she's moved past such childish games. This prompts Union to challenge Megumin to a maturity contest based on physical development. But Megumin dismisses it as an immature measure and mentions bathing with Kazuma, which causes Union to leave in tears. Megumin considers it another victory. In the following days, Kazuma continues his routine of accompanying Megumin's explosion exercises, despite being a suspect. He realizes that he and his companions cannot survive on Aqua's milk carton assembly and vegetable sales alone. Kazuma decides to follow a tip from Luna about recently discovered routes in the nearby Keel's dungeon. Despite Megumin's protests, she cannot use explosion inside dungeons without causing a cave-in. Meanwhile, Dust overhears their conversation. Kazuma prevents Dust from tagging along and increases the competition by bribing him with a coupon for the Succubus Cafe that expires tonight. Dust happily accepts the offer and leaves them alone. I mean, who would really pick demons over a chance to see your mom? Luna warns them about the danger and tells them to be careful out there. Kazuma enters the dark dungeon alone, using thief skills like enemy detection and lurk to avoid enemies, and farsight for night vision. Aqua follows him because she can see clearly in the dark and protect him from the undead, which makes lurk useless. They find the first level already emptied of treasure, as Megumin practices her poses outside the dungeon. Kazuma uncovers a hidden staircase leading to an unexplored section. Aqua, feeling nervous, teases Kazuma as they descend. Kazuma jokes about leaving her behind in case a gremlin attacks. Aqua tries to laugh it off, calling Kazuma's joke funny, but he reminds her that she should know he's not joking. They hear something approaching from the stairs and both freeze. Kazuma mentions that his enemy detection is picking it up. He signals Aqua to stay silent, but she mistakes it for shadow puppets and jokes about his silly little fox and rabbit shadows. She boasts that she will show him a perfect mobile fortress destroyer. Annoyed, Kazuma clarifies that the gesture meant, "An enemy is coming, so let's run away." As they argue, a strange creature with big ears rushes toward them, growling. Kazuma acts quickly and defeats it with his sword. The creature lies dead on the ground, leaving them both startled. Aqua hides her face in the ground. Kazuma questions what the creature was, mentioning that he could see its shape with foresight, but couldn't discern its identity. Aqua informs him that it's a low-level demon called a gremlin. She explains that it's not uncommon to encounter weak demons in dungeons like these. Kazuma is surprised to learn that Aqua can actually see in the dark. As they venture deeper into the dungeon, Kazuma is startled by the decayed corpse of an adventurer. Aqua guides the soul to the afterlife before it can turn into an undead. Realizing Kazuma was completely unprepared for the undead creatures in the dungeon, Aqua mocks him for trying to go in alone. While rummaging through old furniture, Kazuma saves Aqua from falling for a dungeon mimic. Aqua purifies the countless ghosts, zombies, and skeletons that keep crowding around them with turn undead and god blow. She falls into a trap wall, behind which she smells more undead, which turns out to be the newly awakened Keel. The Lich reveals that he was once the most powerful archwizard of the kingdom. He fell in love with one of the king's mistreated concubines, who accepted his proposal after he rescued her. The two fled from the kingdom's pursuers to hide in the dungeon. After pointing out the remains of his deceased wife, Keel asks to be purified so he can join her. "Let's not forget you'll never find love like that," which Aqua does by drawing a magic circle to cast Sacred Turn Undead. Leaving with Keel's treasure, Kazuma realizes that Keel and all other undead in the dungeon were attracted to Aqua's presence. He ditches her as monsters attack, leaving her traumatized when they make it outside. When Megumin learns that Kazuma abandoned Aqua, he argues that Aqua herself is to blame because of her aura attracting the undead. Back at the guild, Kazuma's party and other adventurers drink to celebrate, with Yun and Chris joining in. After stealing Chris' panties, Kazuma declares that he is no longer bothered about his debt and is having fun. He quickly returns to complaining about his life the next morning while Aqua throws up. Aqua sneezes while sewing Kazuma's jersey. Kazuma calmly asks her if she's catching a cold and tells her to take care of herself. She replies in the same tone, telling him that he sounds pretty hoarse himself. She continues fixing the tracksuit and assures him it'll be good to wear soon. He reminds her that she's the one who threw it in the fireplace in the first place. Then he hears a growling noise coming from Aqua's stomach and asks her if she's feeling hungry. She tells him that she actually hasn't eaten breakfast yet. Kazuma again reminds her that she's the one who got carried away and spent all their money on booze. Aqua defensively replies with tears in her eyes, saying that she did it because everyone was having so much fun partying. Kazuma pulls out a bottle of bubbly, and Aqua recognizes that it's her fancy bottle of bubbly that she had hidden under her bed. Kazuma is furious at Aqua for being responsible for them freezing and starving at the mansion. He says that he plans to exchange it for some money at the pawn shop. Aqua fights him to get her bottle back, but he pushes her away, saying that he would either exchange it for cash or drink it right now to at least warm himself up a little bit. Aqua begs him and cries at his feet, telling him that she can't sleep without holding that bottle. They continue arguing about it. Darkness bursts in wearing her Harris dress. She explains that Aldorp is asking her to marry his son Walther. Darkness shows the party a portrait of a handsome man, which Kazuma rips in jealousy. Aqua repairs the portrait using rice. Despite Darkness's protests, her father, Ignis, who is fond of Walther, agrees to the marriage. Darkness asks her party to help stop it. Walther is sincere and gentlemanly, not the perverted and useless type Darkness prefers. He would prevent her from being harmed by the Devil King's minions. Kazuma, wanting Darkness out of his party, tears the repaired portrait in excitement. He suggests that Darkness accept a marriage interview with Walther, which they will then ruin. However, Kazuma's true intention is to help seal the marriage. Sena shows up, questioning Kazuma about the numerous monsters appearing around Axel. Kazuma assigns Megumin to deal with the matter so she won't hinder his plans. Darkness, Kazuma, and Aqua go to Darkness' family mansion. After a discussion with Ignis, Kazuma and Aqua dress up as a butler and a maid in preparation for the marriage interview. During the interview, Kazuma will secretly help Ignis prevent Darkness from doing anything unwarranted in exchange for a reward. During their interview with Walther, Kazuma secretly freezes Darkness' neck whenever she tries to say something inappropriate. pretending to protect her family's reputation in front of Walther. Ignis suggests Darkness and Walther take a walk in the garden, with Kazuma and Aqua accompanying them. Darkness tries to discourage Walther by saying she and Kazuma bathe together and share a bedroom. However, Walther is impressed and charmed by Darkness's frankness in treating her butler as her equal. Darkness, unable to contain herself, tears up her dress and challenges Walther to a sparring match at the dojo. She withstands countless strikes from Walther without landing any hits, causing him to concede defeat as he admires her even more. Disgusted by Darkness's show of restraint, she tells Kazuma to show Walther how he fights. Kazuma creates water, causing Darkness's soaked clothes to stick to her, and then he freezes her. However, Darkness grapples with Kazuma as he desperately tries to use Drain Touch. Realizing he's losing, Kazuma threatens to do unspeakable things to Darkness if he wins, and Darkness falters at his threats. Ignis walks in to find Darkness unconscious on the floor with torn clothes and orders Kazuma and Walther to be executed. After learning the truth, Ignis explains that Darkness had been lonely and prayed daily to Eris for an adventurer friend until Chris befriended her. Ignis and Walther ask Kazuma to take care of her. When Darkness regains consciousness, she falsely claims to be pregnant with Kazuma's child, unaware that Walther had already declined the marriage proposal, suspecting that Darkness and Kazuma are in love. Kazuma tries desperately to explain the truth to an overjoyed Ignis and a curious Aqua. Sina, accompanied by Megumin, bursts in looking for Kazuma. Sina informs Kazuma that since he explored Keel's dungeon, large numbers of unidentified monsters have been spreading around Axel's outskirts. When Kazuma questions his companions, Aqua reveals that the magic circle she left in Keel's chamber repels monsters. Concerned that Sina might wrongly attribute the monsters to him if the magic circle is discovered, Kazuma steps forward and volunteers his party to investigate the dungeon. At the dungeon entrance, they are confronted by a horde of monsters resembling small masked dolls. These creatures walk out of the dungeon, hugging anyone they encounter before exploding. Sina, accompanied by other adventurers, approaches Kazuma and entrusts him with a talisman capable of sealing evil presences, in case they encounter the summoner of these monsters. Kazuma accepts the responsibility, understanding the urgency of the situation. Aqua, still traumatized by Kazuma abandoning her on their previous visit, refuses to enter any dungeon with him. Does the abandonment remind you of your dad, though? She stays outside with Megumin. Darkness, followed by Kazuma, enters the passageways that are now illuminated. She strikes the dolls that keep jumping at her and withstands their self-explosions without any issue. Leaving the other adventurers tied down by the dolls, Kazuma leads Darkness to Keel's chamber. At the entrance sits a masked man in a tuxedo who is fashioning the dolls from clay. He introduces himself as Vanner, a Duke of Hell and one of the Devil King's generals. Vanner explains that he was sent to Axel to investigate Beldia's disappearance, but his true goal is to visit Wiz and taste the negative emotions of humans. Kazuma informs him that the dolls he made for clearing the Dungeon of Monsters are now heading outside. Vanner supposes that if they are heading outside, then that means that there are no more monsters left in the dungeon to kill. He turns the doll he just made back to clay and moves on to this next plan. Vanner reveals that his sublime death wish is to create a challenging dungeon and let some brave adventurers defeat him, enjoying their disappointment when they find only a mocking message in his treasure chest. His original plan was to use a friend's store to save up money to pay for the construction of a massive dungeon. But when he passed by this one, he decided to just take over the ownerless Keel's dungeon, but was stopped from entering the inner chamber by Aqua's magic circle. Using his powers, he learns who Aqua is from Kazuma's mind, then suggests letting Kazuma and Darkness have fun in the bedroom. While he goes out to confront and kill Aqua, he tells him about his rule to not kill humans. Kazuma feels tempted by Vanner's offer, but Darkness is not convinced. Kazuma snaps out of it as well. Darkness attacks Vanner, but keeps missing until Kazuma's intervention throws Vanner off balance. Taking advantage of the distraction, Darkness slices Vanner in two, leaving behind only a pile of clay and his mask. The mask attaches itself to Darkness's face and attempts to possess her. To their surprise, Darkness's will is so strong that she continues to resist the mask's control and keeps interrupting Vanner's attempts to take over her. Kazuma wipes away the magic circle and then quickly slaps the sealing talisman onto the mask. His plan is to bring Darkness outside, where Aqua will purify Vanner. As they run towards the exit, Vanner claims control of Darkness' body and prepares to attack Aqua by surprise. However, as they exit, Aqua senses his evil presence and hits him with her sacred exorcism before she even sees him. Vanner utilizes Darkness's full abilities to dodge Aqua's Sacred Highness exorcism and defeat the other adventurers closing in on him before advancing to attack Aqua. Kazuma calls on Darkness to remove the mask when he removes the talisman. However, when he tries to cast Steel, he accidentally casts Hender instead. Unfortunately, Darkness is unable to remove the mask. She instructs Megumin to use Explosion on her, so Vanner will either be destroyed alongside her or purified by Aqua when he leaves her body. Vanner chooses to be blown up with Darkness. In the aftermath of the explosion, they find Vanner's destroyed mask next to Darkness, who miraculously survives. Her real name, Lalatina, spreads around town, much to her embarrassment. Their defeat of one of the Devil King's generals convinces Sina that Kazuma is not working for the Devil King. She withdraws the charges of treason and grants him the rich rewards for defeating the Destroyer and Vanner, which brings joy to Kazuma, who not only clears his debt but now possesses tens of millions of Eris. Darkness and Megumin are forcing Aqua to come outside as spring is almost here. Aqua refuses to leave and asks the pair to try and change Kazuma's mind before turning their attention towards her. After defeating Vanner, one of the Demon King's commanders, Kazuma is left with the difficult task of breaking the news of his demise to Wiz. Darkness and Kazuma arrive at Wiz's shop to inform him of Vanner's demise, only to discover him reincarnated into a second life and working for Wix instead of the Demon King. Vanner proposes a business plan to Kazuma according to which Kazuma would develop products from his homeworld and Vanner would sell them in this world. Kazuma's first idea was a kotatsu similar to the one he was hiding under. When Darkness and Megumin try to bring him out of it, he uses Freeze and Drain Touch to keep them at bay. Frustrated by his actions, Kazuma gets thrown out along with his kotatsu. Kazuma had to find out the hard way that comfort is fleeting when you're too chill for your own good. Kazuma then takes the party to the blacksmith where he collects the katana he had ordered when asking to learn the blacksmith skill. Kazuma is pleased with the end product. The blacksmith then presents Kazuma with his full plate armor. The girls are impressed with Kazuma's new look. However, he has to leave the armor behind as it is too heavy for him. Moreover, Kazuma knocks over an entire row of swords with his new katana, embarrassing himself in front of the party. Only after leaving the blacksmith's place does he reveal his disappointment regarding his new weapon. Back at the guild, Megumin points out that Kazuma's katana was looking much smaller than before. Darkness and Aqua point out a new quest about lizard runners. Luna explains the quest and the troublesome mating rituals of the lizard runners, asking the party members to get rid of the lizard runners. Luna tries to warn them about the dangers associated with this quest, but she is shushed by Kazuma, who reconfirms to her that they would be fine. He is about to tell the name of his katana to Luna when Megumin tells him that she had named his katana Chunshammaru. This revelation greatly saddens Kazuma, positioned on top of a tree outside Axel. Kazuma goes over the plan to stop the lizard runners. He would first snipe the king and princess runners, which would disperse the rest of the horde. If his first attempt fails, Darkness and Megumin will hold him back till he manages to snipe the king and princess. As the horde approaches, Kazuma realizes that he doesn't know how to identify the king from the others. Aqua uses Force Fire to draw the attention of all the lizards, to allow Kazuma to identify the king as he would be the fastest in the horde. However, Kazuma snipes the king before the princess. This incites the males to become the new king, making them more violent. Megumin is unable to use explosion magic because Kazuma Drain touched her earlier. Darkness and Aqua are stomped over by the horde. Kazuma snipes the princess right as it is about to jump kick him. However, her body falls on the branch, causing Kazuma to fall and break his neck. Kazuma's plan fell apart faster than he did. Kazuma is transported back to Eris. He apologizes to her in embarrassment. Eris tells him not to worry as he has decided to lead an adventurer's life in the parallel world, a lifestyle imbued with danger. Eris, however, scolds him for being careless in this particular incident. Eris reveals that Darkness had single-handedly fended off the horde in order to protect Megumin, while Aqua was unharmed by the stampede and had started to resurrect his body right after the lizard runners dispersed. Kazuma asks whether Eris's life is boring, and she reveals that she sometimes sneaks into the living world to have some fun. Kazuma decides that he wants to be reborn as a baby and does not want to defeat the Demon King. Aqua tries to convince him to come back, but he refuses to return. Kazuma only comes back when he hears that Megumin is doing something to his body, which he later discovers is doodling on his crotch. Kazuma finds out that even in death, embarrassment can be a real kick in the pants. Aqua makes tea for Kazuma, but she purifies it before serving it to him. Kazuma politely asks her to remake it and is not bothered at all. Suspicious of Kazuma's newfound calm demeanor, Megumin asks him to return to normal. Darkness brings Megumin up to speed regarding what was happening with Kazuma. Darkness says that after she disappeared yesterday, Vanner appears at the mansion. Aqua is surprised that he was able to infiltrate the barrier she set up around the mansion, but Vanner dismisses it as a weak barrier. After a small squabble, Vanner offers to buy the rights to all the products created using Kazuma's memories for 300 million. Darkness explains to Megumin that Aqua and Kazuma had been acting like royalty ever since Vanner left. Kazuma's calmness was more unsettling than Aqua's tea, at least the tea had a reason to be bland. Megumin proposes they go on a kill quest, however, Kazuma does not see the point in it since he is on the verge of making a fortune. Kazuma plans to make a living solely out of business from now on. Aqua states that Kazuma abandoning his life as an adventurer and not defeating the Demon King would be quite a problem for her. Kazuma decides to make enough money to hire incredibly strong adventurers to defeat the Demon King. This plan pleases Aqua but infuriates Megumin. Kazuma brings up his neck injury from their last adventure. Megumin proposes they go to Arkanlisha, a city of hot water springs, to recuperate. This interests both Kazuma and Aqua. However, Megumin wasn't keen on this idea since her idea of relaxation involves more explosions than Zen meditation. The next morning, Aqua and Kazuma are ready to leave, but Megumin and Darkness are still sleeping. Aqua goes to wake them, and Kazuma makes his way to the carriage terminal to secure the best seats for them. Kazuma detours to Wiz's shop to notify Vanner about their trip to the hot springs. Kazuma notices Wiz passed out on the floor and inquires what happened to her. Vanner explains how he zapped her unconscious with his killer eye beam as she purchased a shipment of magical portable toilets. However, they had a flaw that attracts hordes of monsters. Kazuma arrives at the carriage terminal late with an unconscious Wiz on his back. Aqua is angry at him for not saving them seats in advance. Aqua points out that Wiz is starting to fade away. Kazuma gets concerned as he does not know what to do since Aqua's healing magic would only make the situation worse for the undead Wiz. He drains the life force from Darkness in order to revive Wiz. After buying tickets for the carriage, the party realizes that one seat was already taken by a baby red dragon. After several rounds of rock, paper, scissors, Aqua ends up sitting in the luggage compartment outside the carriage. Everything goes smoothly for the first part of the trip. As the caravan makes its way through a stretch of arid badlands, Kazuma points out a dust cloud in the distance using Farsight. The driver suggests that it can be a pack of running Hawkites doing their chicken race, in which they charge into the hardest thing they find. Kazuma realizes the Hawkites are attracted to Darkness's rock-hard muscle, even though Darkness claims it is her armor that is attracting them. The caravan comes to a halt while the adventurers hired as guards charge the approaching horde of Hawkites. Kazuma takes his party to join the fight as he feels responsible for attracting the monsters. He asks Megumin to use her explosion magic, while he charges the monsters alongside Darkness. The hired adventure guards stand in awe of Darkness, who rushes to the front lines to take on the monsters all by herself. An adventurer tries to aid Darkness by using Bind. She jumps into the attack and gets tied up as a result. As Darkness awaits the flock of males with a smile on her face, the adventurers are filled with guilt, thinking that Darkness sacrificed herself to protect them from the Hawkites. Little did they know Darkness's smile wasn't just bravery, it was anticipation for her next masochistic adventure. The charging Hawkites approach Darkness in a display for their chicken race, a race where they dodge her at the very last second, which excites Darkness as she counts this as teasing, embarrassing Kazuma and Aqua, who are observing this scene from a distance. Aqua blesses Darkness and Kazuma agrees to give up his seat to her on the carriage. The hired adventurers fight the running Hawkites who have turned for another run. Kazuma, after finding out that there is a cave nearby, asks his companions to board the carriage. As Darkness is too heavy for Kazuma to carry, she suggests that he tie her from a rope to the wagon and drag her along. While racing the running Hawkites to the cave, the driver urges Kazuma to buy them more time as the Hawkites are closing in on them. Wiz uses bottomless seam on some of the running Hawkites and sinks them. Meanwhile, Aqua continuously uses heals on Darkness. With the cave in sight, Kazuma orders the driver to stop the carriage on the side of the cave and asks Aqua for some support magic to increase his strength. Kazuma then gets on top of the carriage and starts sniping the Hawkites with his arrows. As they reach the cave, Kazuma tosses darkness to its entrance, causing all the Hawkites to jump over her and enter the cave. Megumin uses her explosion magic to blow up the trapped monsters. Darkness would have loved to be on the receiving end of this attack. Later that night, the caravan leader, impressed by the strength of Kazuma's party members, offers them rewards. Kazuma refuses them because of his guilty conscience. Aqua entertains the other travelers with her party tricks, while Darkness and Megumin watch Kazuma repair Darkness's armor using the blacksmith skills he had acquired. A little while later, Kazuma and Darkness are woken up by approaching zombies. Kazuma hurries to wake up Aqua but finds her surrounded by them already. Aqua uses Turn Undead and purifies the zombies and Wiz in a fascinating display. Kazuma figures out that the zombies are attracted to the divine aura of Aqua and once again refuses any rewards from the caravan. Even the undead couldn't resist Aqua's divine presence. Talk about raising the roof. Union arrives at Kazuma's mansion with gifts only to find it empty. The caravan finally arrives in Arkanlisha. The city is filled with elves and dwarves. The party disembarks from the caravan. Wiz is still unconscious, so Kazuma carries her on his back. Megumin is starting to miss Jirippa. Aqua reveals that Arkanlisha is the headquarters of the Axis Order. The locals surround the party in an attempt to convert them. However, Kazuma points them towards Aqua, saying she is an Axis archpriest. After the party checks in at an inn, Kazuma and Darkness revive Wiz using Drain Touch before she joins Belia across the river. Kazuma informs her that they have already arrived in Arkanlisha. Aqua and Megumin had left for the main cathedral of the Axis Order, as Aqua wanted to be fawned over by her followers. Darkness and Kazuma decide to see the city, where they witness a girl fall in front of them, dropping all her apples. The pair helped her collect them and put the apples back in her basket. She turns out to be a follower of the Axis Order, using her con tactics to convert Kazuma and Darkness. She goes on to say that unless Kazuma had a grave misfortune awaiting him in the future that could only be averted if he joined the Axis Order. Darkness intervenes and tells her that she was a follower of the Eris Order, turning the tables on the rotten apple, trying to spoil their day. The follower leaves after spitting in disgust. As the pair walk around the city, they run into a girl fleeing from a man, claiming he belonged to the Eris Order. After Darkness reveals she is from the Eris Order, they also spit in disgust and leave. The pair have to face endless harassment from the townsfolk. Kazuma has had enough after a little girl falls in front of him to get his attention and then tries to trick him into signing a conversion form. Kazuma rips the form in anger. Kazuma goes into the main cathedral of the Axis Order, bellowing with rage. He finds Megumin shivering in a cave, while Darkness is getting stoned by the kids. Kazuma asks Darkness to put her Eris necklace away to stop the harassment, but she refuses. He sits in the confessional and tells Aqua to control her followers, only to have his requests deflected by prompts to confess his sins. He changes tactics by admitting that he broke the cup Aqua used for her party tricks and drank the expensive liquor she had bought for herself. Kazuma's tactic of confessing various misdeeds he had committed against Aqua backfires, as Aqua hysterically drags him into her compartment and sobs endlessly. Honesty isn't the best policy after all. Megumin enters the compartment in a disheveled state, eager to leave, Megumin having been traumatized by an undisclosed, terrifying incident. An old Axis follower enters the confessional and confesses he has been tempted by the big breasts on a portrait of Eris. Aqua consoles him into tears before revealing that Eris wears chest pads. After the contented follower leaves, Aqua explains to a disgusted Kazuma that gods are empowered by the devotion they receive, so she needs to protect her followers, who provide her with fanatical worship despite their small numbers, stating that she would do anything for her faithful followers. Back at the inn, Kazuma learns to his disappointment that Wiz has already bathed in the hot springs. Megumin reveals that the Axis cult scares her, while Darkness can't wait to go sightseeing tomorrow as well. Unable to interest Darkness or Megumin in joining him, Kazuma leaves for the mixed bath, where a man named Hans grumbles to a woman named Wolbach about the Axis Order. Wolbach catches Kazuma staring at her and asks him to stop. She leaves after Kazuma continues to stare. Hans drops his towel, proving that some surprises are better covered. Kazuma and Hans get traumatized by the masseuses, who try to convert them. Returning to the springs, Kazuma hears Megumin frolicking with Chomasuk and Darkness in the women's bath. Intuiting that he is eavesdropping by the fence, they lure him closer by discussing him and pretending to fondle each other. Darkness then bashes him through the fence, tossing him into the hot spring. Kazuma creates water at the girls, who throw things at him, including Chomasuk. It was raining cats and dogs. Aqua weeps tears that burn Wiz, hollering about being chased out of Arkanlisha's secret spring because she turned it into pure hot water by bathing in it, as well as the old man in charge of spring maintenance not believing her to be their patron goddess. Wiz points out that Aqua's tears hurt her. The next morning, Aqua tells the others the old man talked about the hot springs' water quality degrading, which she reckons is sabotage by the Devil King's army to bankrupt the Axis Order. Her theory about the hot springs must hold water, even if her plans usually don't. She drags Darkness into helping her save the city. Kazuma and Megumin refuse to help and go walking around the city being harassed again. As they take a break by the lake, they see Hans taking out his rage, before he runs off when he sees Wiz coming. Aqua preaches at the fountain for her followers to not use the hot springs as the Devil King's army has been sabotaging the city's source of income since they could not take the followers of the Axis Order in direct combat. Megumin refuses to help Aqua, claiming that she is scared of the members of the Axis cult. Aqua tries to rally the locals against the Devil King, however, in addition to not believing her even when she reveals her goddess identity, the townsfolk call her out for turning their hot springs into pure hot water when she went around purifying the contaminated springs. Back at the inn, Aqua cries at night over the danger faced by her followers. The Axis followers arrive at the inn in a mob, declaring their intent to lynch Aqua for impersonating their goddess. Safe to say her plan backfired so badly that even the hot springs town needed a cold shower. The townspeople are furious and gather outside the inn where Kazuma and his party are staying. They call Aqua an imposter and want to get rid of her. The party escapes the inn using a makeshift balloon Aqua creates with her light pink Hagoromo, a divine relic that appears and disappears at her will. They hide in an alleyway. Aqua tells them the water source is the problem, and if she can purify it, the hot springs will return to normal. She decides to cut off the rotten smell at the source. The townspeople find them again, and they have to escape once more. As they run, Kazuma asks Aqua if she really wants to save the people insulting her. They head to the main spring in the mountains behind the main cathedral to investigate. Guards stop them, following orders from the old man in charge of spring maintenance. With Aqua and Megumi's help, Kazuma uses Darkness' family crest to pressure the guards into letting them in. Seeing the pendant, the guards apologize and allow them to enter. Inside, they find the water source and are shocked to see the water is black and likely poisoned, indicating the source is contaminated. Looks like the party is diving into a mystery deeper than the hot springs themselves, and the water isn't the only thing that's murky this time. As they walk further, the party finds the man who resented the Axis Church, with his hand in the source reservoir. Kazuma recognizes him from the bath. Wiz suspects she has seen him before, and the man tries to hide his face while denying it. After a few moments, Wiz remembers him and greets him as Hans, the mutated deadly poison slime she met at the Devil King's castle. At first, Hans denies it but eventually gives in when the party members don't let him escape. Realizing he must be behind the hot springs contamination, Kazuma learns that Hans is one of the Devil King's generals and that the people who are digested by slimes cannot be resurrected. Talk about a sticky situation. He reminds Wiz about the deal that she doesn't help them apart from maintaining the barrier, and in exchange she isn't allowed to oppose them. He asks why he is getting in his way now. Wiz angrily explains that she was just trying to stay high because it's been so long, and Hans says that according to him, that is exactly what getting in his way seems like. Wiz introduces the party as her friends and asks Hans if they can just discuss the issue. Hans mocks her for no longer having a spine, as back then she would never talk about things. They run back down the mountain after realizing how strong and unbeatable Hans is. The party spots the lynch mob coming up, trapping them between Hans and the mob. Aqua goes back to the spring to save the townspeople, forcing Kazuma to help or else be killed by the mob with no one to resurrect him. When Hans reveals he ate the old man maintaining the springs, Wiz realizes she is released from her promise not to oppose the Devil King's army, as it was based on them not killing innocent non-combatants. She freezes Hans with cursed crystal prison, but he assumes a gigantic form and sprays poison everywhere, Hans being literally too toxic for everyone around him. Aqua frantically purifies the spring. Seeing what Aqua said is true, the mob starts throwing things at Hans, and the Eris worshipping Darkness and healing the burned Aqua. Yet their efforts make no difference. Megumin cannot blow Hans up without polluting the whole mountain, and Hans is too large now for Wiz to freeze. Kazuma spots the bones of the old man inside Hans, still undigested, So upon hearing that Aqua can resurrect people in this state, he gives instructions to Megumin and Wiz, before provoking Hans to chase him. Jumping into a nearby narrow alley, Kazuma is devoured and all his flesh dissolved. Megumin sets off a big explosion inside the enclosed space, burning away most of the slime. Wiz then freezes Hans in ice before falling down exhausted. Hans breaks out, now the size of a mascot. As he tries to devour Wiz and Darkness, Aqua hits him hard with God Blow. With her powers stronger from the chanting of the Axis followers, Hans finally realizes that Aqua is the goddess they worship, just before she destroys him with her god Requiem. With all of the city's hot springs purified and the devoured people resurrected by Aqua, the party is forced to leave Arkanlisha. On their way back to Axel by carriage, they are welcomed by their friends. Union challenges Megumin once more when the party returns to their mansion, while Kazuma eagerly anticipates a peaceful rest at home. Next we see two white deers eating grass when a giant frog appears and eats one of them, while a volcano erupts in the background. Everybody is complaining about a mage that screwed the whole landscape, as there will be no tuna next year, even though it is tuna season. People are disappointed. On one table, there seems to be utmost tension when Kazuma says that they got 0 points. This triggers Megumin and she contests that the explosion magic was worth 120 points. Kazuma gets angry and explains that it indeed was 0 points, as she used explosion magic on a monster who she thought was going to take their tuna. He continued that it is high time that she learns some advanced magic. Darkness intervenes and asks Kazuma to calm down, but he tells her that she smells of fish, which offends her, as during the fight, the fish was biting on her. Aqua worries that they are in debt, and they might have to work part-time again, which she doesn't want to do. Kazuma introduces Aqua as the archpriest who makes everything a pain. He introduces Megumin as the archpriest that makes everything go to waste, while Darkness is the crusader that makes everything smell like wild game. Kazuma thinks that these comrades are useless and his mission might have reached its end with them. While he thinks this, some women are talking about him on the side, saying that the only thing he is good at is stealing girls' underwear, and he would drop-kick them without thinking twice. Before he could take a hold of the situation, Union appears all tense and comes to Kazuma. He inquired about her and she said that she wants to have his baby, which makes him feel popular and boosts his ego. The next scene starts and Aqua is seen playing with cards and cats, while Kazuma asks Union to repeat what he said. She repeats that she wants to have his baby and the first one needs to be a boy, despite Kazuma's wish of having a daughter. Kazuma gets shocked as he found her to be meek earlier, but she's quite dominant. Megumin and Darkness intervene and try to stop Union, as they think Kazuma is not a good guy. Kazuma gets offended and tries to shoo them away, saying that it is none of their business and he will definitely have a baby with her to beat the Devil King and save the world. However, Megumin says that she can't have her friend fall for a bad guy like him, but Kazuma says that he is finally in his popular era and has started to doubt if both of them are jealous, as they might like him too. While they are fighting uncontrollably, Union screams that the Crimson Demon village will be wiped out. Everybody freezes and calls a meeting immediately. They all sit for a meeting when Union pulls out a letter she received from her father and asks Aqua to read it out. As she starts reading, she starts getting tense. She reads that upon this Ketter's arrival, Union's father might have passed on. She continues reading that the Devil King might wipe out the Crimson Demon village as forecasted by a wise man who said that there might be a light of hope. He forecasted that Union will be the only survivor whose son, that she had with a man with no special powers, will be the one avenging the devastation of the village. Everybody gets shocked while Kazuma gets a bit offended as she chose him. Aqua interrupts, saying that she definitely cannot wait that long to defeat the Devil King. She says that their kid is going to take so long to grow up and then go on the mission, but Kazuma says that it doesn't make sense that a toddler goes on this mission. Union claims that she has some really good fortune tellers in the village, but all of a sudden, Aqua reads Heroic Tales of Crimson Village, Chapter 1, which is written by Aru. Alas, everyone finds out that it was just a story written by Aru, their classmate. Kazuma is still ready to do the deed and keeps asking about it. Megumin says that the first page of the letter might stand true, where it is said the village might get attacked by the Devil King. Darkness explains that as long as the chief's daughter, Tunyan, is alive, the village is still set, and there is nothing to worry about. Union asks Megumin if she is worried about it, as her friends belong from there and they might die, but she says that they will always remain alive in her heart, which shocks everyone, and they call her a monster. Union takes a leave and apologizes to everyone. She says she has friends back friends. All four of them go to Wiz, who suggests them the idea of teleporting them to the Crimson Village. Kazuma agrees, saying that the tsundere Megumi misses her home, which angers her. Out of nowhere, Vanner appears and starts roasting everyone of their team. Vanner tells them that he has come up with a contract and starts discussing it with Kazuma. As they are speaking, Aqua breaks one of the valuable things in the shop. Vanner tells her to go back, but she says that the customer is always right, and on top of that, she is a goddess, so she needs to be treated like one. Vanner asks how dare she lecture him about being a brokey herself. Anyway, Wiz teleports them to Crimson Village, while Vanner is still angry at Aqua. Wiz, after teleporting them, thinks to herself about the exact location of Crimson Village. They are teleported to some weird place as Kazuma is being followed by desperate lady orcs who are trying to seduce Megumi. Aqua and Darkness keep following the herd of lady orcs behind, and Megumi explains that there are no male orcs left in the world, and in case one is born, these lady orcs work them up so much that they die before age. One of the lady orcs tells Kazuma to come to her, but he refuses. Megumi reminds Darkness that all male orcs are dead, which makes her pass out. The lady orcs keep running after Kazuma, making weird remarks about having 70 kids, but Kazuma keeps running. He keeps begging for mercy and asks Aqua to use some trick, but even she can't use any of that in this range while Darkness is passed out. The lady orcs finally get a hold of him and start stripping him off clothes and lusting over him. He keeps resisting and tries to take the conversation elsewhere, but without any luck, he keeps getting harassed helplessly. All of a sudden, Union appears and uses her magic to make all the lady orcs disappear underground. She says that the only reason she's letting them go is because they are neighbors from Crimson Village. Kazuma cries uncontrollably and thanks Union for her help while holding onto her robe. They all hide in a forest and take some rest while Kazuma lies in Aqua's lap, where everybody is trying to console him. He thanks Union and says that from now on he will look up to her only, but she says that sounds very sarcastic. She asks if Megumin finally wanted to go to the village to save her people, and that she won't admit, but she truly cares. This doesn't sit well with Megumin, as she thinks that Union is trying to embarrass her, so she brings up something to embarrass her instead. She says everybody from Crimson Village has a tattoo on their body, and Union's tattoo is somewhere she knows, which surprises her as nobody knows where it is. This intrigues Kazuma and he starts blushing. Union tries to defend herself and warns Megumin that she will restrict her magic if she continues, but Megumin asks Aqua for support magic, which is called unfair by Union. As they are fighting, some demons hear them and start looking for them. All of them hide in the bushes and try to stay silent, but Megumin starts blaming Union for making noise and attracting the demons, which starts another fight between them. Darkness tries to shut them up and asks Kazuma for help, but he is least interested in any of it and instead shouts, asking for the place where Union's tattoo is. His loud voice gives demons their location and Darkness starts beating him up. They are facing the demons now and are a bit scared. Within no time, Aqua steps up and tries to use a trick on them. She starts scaring them off by underestimating them, as she calls them lesser demons, and gives them a chance to run for their lives as they stand no chance in front of them. The demons start making fun of her when Union tries to step up. Megumin stops her and reminds her how she made fun of her explosion magic, but now she will show how serious her magic is. Everybody tries to stop her, but she carries the explosion magic out anyway, which destroys everything around. After the explosion, everyone is on the ground, and Kazuma says that they have negative 90 points because of it. One of the demons said that it indeed was a powerful magic, but now he had called many more from his team who will show them no mercy. All of a sudden, a team of 4 appears and they take the demon army by storm and destroy each and every one of them through their magic. The 4 of them say they heard an explosion from a distance and seem to recognize Union and Megumin. Buckarori asks Megumin if this is her adventuring party, but she seems to not answer out of hesitation. Buckarori then introduces himself in a certain manner, to which Kazuma introduces himself in the same way, which impresses them 4 of them, as nobody has ever introduced himself in the same right manner. They all teleport to the Crimson Village. All the outsider party is in awe of the village as it is so beautiful and peaceful. Buckarori says that it feels nice to have Union and Megumi back. They go and meet Union's dad, who they thought had died as mentioned in the letter. Aqua subtly tells her that they know what he was trying to do with Megumi while she was sleeping. Knowing that there is no point in explaining, he simply apologizes. After that, they go out and spend the rest of the day around the village visiting new places and trying new things. Megumin shows Aqua and Kazuma a mysterious facility where it is said that the Crimson Demon's natural enemy is sealed away. This intrigues Kazuma and Aqua when Megumin also tells them that there are more places where the goddesses and demons are locked or sealed away, but they eventually get released, which again frustrates Kazuma as he is shocked at their inability to keep them sealed. They then go to this clothing store where the owner, Chikara, recognizes Megumin and asks if the rest of them are outsiders. He starts acting weirdly, which scares Aqua and Kazuma, but then he tones down, introduces himself and his foremost clothing store. Kazuma finds it impressive. Megumin wants to buy another robe just like the one she wears and asks if Chilera has something available, and he does. He shows her the robes available for her. Megumin wants to buy more than one robe as she says that she has to wear them when in action, and Kazuma has lent her some money. As Chikara is taking the robes off, Kazuma and Aqua notice that they are hanging on a brand new rifle. He inquires about it as he is shocked that Chikara says it passed down through his family. Kazuma can't believe his ears and thinks something is wrong with his village. As they are returning back, Megumin gets excited and offers to show them something and takes them to the Magic Academy, Red Prison. She is dressed up in her old school uniform alongside Union, who Megumin said was very lonely last night, so she invited her over. Union denies as she is embarrassed, but Aqua is excited to have a tour. However, Kazuma thinks that it's just an excuse to wear old uniforms as they feel nostalgic when Aqua points out that since he never went to school, he's saying so. This feels like a violation to Kazuma. All of a sudden, three girls appear who introduce themselves as Aru, the author, Funifura, who is known for Brother Complex, and Dodonko. Kazuma finds the brothers' complex things weird and comments on it, while Megumin purposefully calls Funifura with a different name, which angers Funifura. Megumin then introduces them as her classmates in the Magic Academy and also prohibits Aru from sending fake letters. Aru asks Union if this is her team, which leaves her embarrassed to not have a team, so she tries to cover it up by introducing Kazuma, Aqua, and Megumin as her team. She even adds that since Megumin was sad, they added her to her team. Aqua intervenes and says that even though Union is not a part of their team, she helps them out a lot. Megumin confirms. Aqua continues to add that Union is nicknamed by her as the Frog Slayer, following how she destroyed giant toads with air giant sword-like spells. Aru, Funifura, and Dodonko are surprised to find this out and say that that is indeed advanced magic, as they thought that Union could only do intermediate magic. This intrigues Kazuma, but he stays silent. On their way back, Aqua and Megumin are conversing while Kazuma is silent. Upon asking, he says that he is still thinking about Union and that he only thought of Crimson Demons as some OP weirdos who just know how to use advanced magic. Megumin takes a break and sighs while Kazuma and Aqua listen to her. She confesses that when she used to go to the Magic Academy, she made it her mission to master explosion magic and stored up her skills and points every step of the way to make sure she learned it. However, one day, Kameko was attacked by some devils and monsters, and she was stuck. At that time, Union stepped up and used all her points to learn intermediate magic, so that Megumin would not have to give up on her points of learning explosion magic. She sacrificed for her even though she did not ask for it. Aqua listens and comments that it is okay as Union is still a finer mage than Megumin is. Kazuma agrees. While they are arguing, they hear an explosion from a distance and rush to the scene. They find darkness gathered by the Devil King's forces and Lady Sylvia. One of the force members tells Sylvia that this Lady, Darkness, has been able to withstand our attacks and comes up with better ones, while Darkness vows to not let them win as long as she has light in her eyes. Kazuma and the team appear and he has brought Elo from Crimson Devils on his way. Sylvia comments on how they are buying time to bring allies but appreciates Darkness as being a high-level crusader as she withstood all their attacks. Kazuma steps in and tries to get a hold of the situation. He says that this same crusader is a strong warrior who destroyed the Devil King's General Vanner, which leaves Sylvia surprised as she remembers how he never returned from the town of Axel. Seeing that it worked, Kazuma tries to uptalk his team more by saying that Megumin is the one who killed Vanner-sama. Moreover, Dullahan, Verdia, and Hans were also killed by the four of them. This brings a great deal of shock to Sylvia as she can't believe it, so she asks for Kazuma's name as she supposed that he must be their leader. Kazuma, of course, is hesitant to give his name out and starts sweating, but eventually comes up with a fake name and introduces himself as Mitsurugi Kyoya. Megumin isn't surprised that he did so and thinks that he must have been feeling cocky being backed up by Crimson Demons. Lady Sylvia is a bit taken back to be encountered by Mitsurui, who is known to be a very powerful party, but Kazuma stays in character and keeps bragging about his team. Lady Sylvia then challenges him to come face to face in another battle readily, but for now, she orders her forces to retreat. However, as they are retreating, the Crimson Demons attack them with magic. At night, all of them fall asleep as planned by Megumi's mother. Again, Megumi and Kazuma sleep together when all of a sudden, Megumi wakes up as Kazuma is rubbing her hand. She finds it weird and quickly gets out of bed and starts accusing Kazuma of messing with her in her sleep. Kazuma clarifies that he was only rubbing her hand as she was cold and that she always doubts him and never thanks him for all he does. Megumi calms down and grabs Kazuma's hand and starts to thank him. She thanks him for always keeping an aimless wizard in the team no matter her mess-ups, for always carrying her on his shoulders after casting explosion magic, etc. This makes Kazuma blush, even though he was the one who asked Megumi to thank him. Kazuma also accepts that she helps out a lot even though he is the weakest adventurer from Axel and always causes trouble, but he wishes to gather as much fortune as possible and spend it with the rest of them having fun. As they both are indulged in this conversation, Megumi notices how cold it is and comments on it. She looks at the window and sees that it is frozen shut and inquires about it from Kazuma, but he is clueless. She panics and blames him for it while trying to open the door. Megumi screams and regrets showing any gratitude to him. Megumi feels helpless and finally comes to lay with him, and Kazuma assures her that he would not do anything at all. Kazuma tries to tease her by using his ice magic on her, which annoys Megumi very much. She stops him and then clings on him. She says that now she knows why Darkness calls him a wimp, since he never really did anything with her even though he had the chance to do so. Kazuma looks at Megumi from inside the blanket and blushes to find out that she might be in on the idea of doing something physical. Suddenly, an announcement is made saying that the Devil King's army has attacked the village. Lady Sylvia is seen lurking around Megumi's house when Kazuma suddenly comes out and confronts her. She gets scared, but Kazuma keeps telling her how she destroyed such a good moment and interrupted just when something was about to happen. He vows to show her no mercy and goes to attack her, but Sylvia, with no effort, stops his sword from reaching her. Lazuum asks Aqua to bring Megumi's parents outside, and she rushes to get them. She doubts if he really is Mitsurui, and if this is his real sword. Megumi tries to cover it up and says that the sword he has is called Chunchan Maru, but upon asking, Kazuma confesses to his real identity. He says that he was afraid that she would kill him in case she knew who he really was. This makes Sylvia laugh hysterically, but Darkness, Aqua, and Megumi gather and try to scare her off by saying that the Crimson Demons are assembling to deal with her and her army. Sylvia grabs Kazuma and suffocates him between her melons. Megumi tries to use explosion magic, but Darkness warns her to not use it. Kazuma doesn't know how to feel about this, as it can be a big trap. However, he thinks to himself what has been happening to him since the start. Yumian offers to make a baby with her, Megumin's advances, the Lady Orcs being desperate, and now him being between Sylvia's melons. Has he really entered his popular phase? He thinks loudly, or is it just another bad luck? Sylvia tells him to stop breathing so heavily as it is making her hot. She announces that she has taken him as hostage, while Aqua sneakily attacks her with sacred exorcism. This causes her to let go of Kazuma, but still she doesn't die, as she is not a pure demon, but the chief of the Enhanced Monster Development Bureau. She says that she has modified herself to her own desires and is now going to take Kazuma as her hostage. She extends out 6 different hands and puts in between her big melons again, while Kazuma gladly gives himself. Megumi asks if he really gave himself to her Tao, which he says that it is a perfect fit for him, and he feels really comfortable. Darkness tries to set him free, but he stops her and tries to move his head around Sylvia's melons, saying that everyone took him for granted but she did not. He demands an apology from the 3 of them. Darkness tries to deal with the situation and tells him to not joke around at the time. She says that they will apologize and she will tell her father and Axel to get him a medal even. He says that he won't buy these talks and wants genuine promises, as Sylvia is giving him such billowy-pillowy treatment unlike them. Kazuma asks Darkness what her strength is, and she replies with her defensive strength, but he strongly disagrees. He says that her biggest strength is her seductive body that brings men to her knees, and the fact that she doesn't even try. Kazuma acts rudely, but Lady Sylvia brushes her hands against his hair and tells him to calm down. She finds him delightful but teaches him not to misbehave with women. Darkness says that a bad demon like her wouldn't know how humans feel, but Kazuma falls for her charismatic demonic beauty. Sylvia says that after all she is a chimera, which means she is a man and a woman combined. This silences everybody, especially Kazuma, as he can't believe his ears. However, Sylvia says that she has added these features to her body, and because of him her melons and lower body feel tingly. Suddenly Kazuma feels something pressing against his butt, and to his doubt, it is exactly what he thinks it is. Sylvia brings him to the Crimson Demon Village's underground storage facility and reassures him that she won't do anything to him and that she wishes to find the ancient weapon hidden here, as it is a magic neutralizer that she will use against Crimson Demons. However, to her surprise, her barrier breaker doesn't work and Kazuma gives out that she might have to use inputs or a cheat code to open the door. He opens the door for her, but she can't see anything in the dark. Kazuma thinks that he opened the door for her, but she might be taking him non-seriously just because he is defenseless. He pushes her in the dark and closes the door, immediately leaving her trapped inside. She keeps screaming for help, but some Crimson Demons and Kazuma's team appear. Taeyar is shocked to find out that Kazuma alone was able to defeat a Devil King general. Aqua suggests that even though Kazuma defeated her, they will all get credit as a team, but they hear a loud thud and rush out of the facility. Sylvia appears in front of them, bigger and stronger than ever. The Crimson Demons try to escape the scene. Sylvia says that she is a chimera who can change herself, but since Kazuma helped her get the Mage Killer, she will spare him to see how she destroys the village. She goes to the village and sets it on fire, while the villagers can't believe their eyes. The Devil King's army also sees what Sylvia is doing and decides to join her. The village chief, alongside some other people, looks at it from a hill when Kazuma and his team join them. The chief apologizes to them, but Kazuma blames himself for all of this. The village chief says that there is a countermeasure, but the inscription is some ancient code that no one is able to decipher. While they discuss this, Sylvia attacks near Megumin's house where Kameko is. Darkness takes on her duty of being a knight and vows to protect Megumin's family, while Megumina and everybody else goes to find the inscriptions in the ruins. All of them rush to look for the ruins. Wiz and Vanner are on their way to the Crimson Village, where they want a craftsman who will work for Vanner. To their surprise, the Crimson Village is burning, which is a shocker. Kazuma, Megumi, and Aqua reach the ruins and find something written in Japanese. They get to know about the old doctor that created this energy, and he created Crimson Demons to protect it. Kazuma didn't like the name of this team. They got to know about the power of this Mage Killer power, how it can destroy the whole world in a blink. He created such a weapon and used it for laundry. They went on to assist the villagers against the new Sylvia. The troll army joins Sylvia and compliments how Sylvia looks. She realizes that only they supported her in her ups and downs, and how she treated them roughly, and now she will take care of them. The trolls had a new energy and were happy. The Crimson Demons came and gave their intros. Hierophon, Puchin, Shekobi, Chakamiya. They used their burning flash power to end Sylvia, but not a single damage to her. She realized how strong she was now. She used a spell to abandon magic in her surroundings. A large protection-type surface came up. No one was able to use magic, and now the villagers in a hurry ran for their lives. Trolls wanted to catch them and defeat them because they had no magic powers left. It was then that girl fell and was going to be caught by the trolls. Union, the chief's daughter, shows up and applies Light of Saber at the trolls and kills them. She says that she is here to help them and won't abandon them. The chief was proud and in tears, as she earlier felt ashamed giving her intro. She told Sylvia that in order to destroy the village she has to fight her. Sylvia accepts it and says how she hates young things like her and goes on to attack her. Meanwhile, she planned to get her killed by Kazuma, as he had a gun that could finish Sylvia. Along him were standing Kameko, Megumin, and Aqua. Sylvia gets locked in by the gun and Kazuma prepares to shoot, but when he pulls the trigger nothing happens. Union felt troubled and kept running in confusion and was scared. Megumin uses her explosive magic to attack Sylvia, but instead of hitting Sylvia, the gun Kazuma prepared sucked the whole energy. Aqua excuses to leave with Kameko on the excuse that the chief asked her to protect Kameko. Komuka notices the gun is glowing. Kazuma realizes that the gun is working, and should work now. He sets the gun again and prepares to attack in a scenery way by giving his intro first, but as he is preparing to do so, Kameko pulls the trigger and shoots Sylvia. Sylvia was in utter shock and fell down as it made a huge hole in her belly. She fell and everyone felt at ease and was happy. Kazuma felt bad as Kameko took her chance to become a hero. Komuku then takes the moment and gives her introduction. Sylvia wakes up on the other side where she hears two men waving at her and asking her to come to their side were Hans and Verdia. As she sees them, she finds herself in the middle of the water and suddenly feels someone pulling her inside the water. It was Hans and Verdia. Hans kept saying water soap detergent and Verdia kept saying come with us. Whereas Sylvia didn't want to go and was resisting. On the other side, we see Aqua with the gun in front. She says that the battle was brutal, and she swore to never hurt anyone again, to which Kazuma stopped her until they heard a strange voice and saw a big creature form. Sylvia was revived along with Hans and Verdia. They were revived in such a creature that was so big. Sylvia wanted to take revenge on the people who killed them. Seeing this, Kazuma, Komuku, Megumin, and Aqua ran away to save their lives. Sylvia loosened them against a liquid in a huge amount to drown them, but Wiz using her magic froze it up and saved them. She asked Kazuma what the deal was. Vanir sees Kazuma and asks about the merchandise, but he reads his mind, which leaves them both in shock. When Sylvia sees Vanir and Wiz, she was in shock and called them traitors. Vanir says that if Devil King forces got to know about my survival, they'd be in more trouble. Wiz says to Sylvia that if they could both make a diplomatic approach towards the matter, to which Sylvia says no and attacks them, and Vanir and Wiz fight Sylvia, while others with Kazuma run away. Okami complains to Kazuma that he messed up with Vanir and she won't go back to living the worst life again. Vanir and Wiz fight Sylvia, which buys more time for others to run and formulate a plan. Kazuma thinks of Sylvia's weaknesses and is astonished by her power. He realizes that his popular phase must be the weakness, as Sylvia was forever deprived of true love. He constructs a plan with others, Okami and Kazuma separate and Megumin and Yunyan separate as a team. Wiz fell and was about to be killed by Sylvia mercilessly. But Kishi, under the influence of Vanir the Mind Reader, protects her and fights off Sylvia. Verdia was amazed by the skill of the Kishi Knight, but later he realizes it's Vanir the Mind Reader. The villagers were shaken too and didn't know their plan. They saw Megumin and Yunyan run towards somewhere. They thought they intended to give up their lives in chief, and Megumin's father was emotional and gave a call to her. Meantime, Wiz comes to the villagers seeking help. She wanted their magic powers. They agreed to do so, and she was able to gather a large amount of magic power in a shape of a large ball. Meanwhile, Vanir buys more time for them to prepare, as he finds it hard to fight off the demon. Kazuma and Okami prepare to face Sylvia. Okami gives her blessings and mentions how he comes up with crazy ideas every time. He says that he has a goddess on his side, so he is sure he won't lose. This boosts the willpower of both. While Sylvia fights with Vanir, she says that she hasn't got true love throughout her life. And the only people that admired her were her goblins. She was tired of wasting her time in this village. She also said that satisfaction and happiness are not the same things. She, at the midst of everything, was craving romance more than ever in her life. She cried that her life wouldn't shine until she had romance in it. Then Kazuma shows up and shows his concern for Sylvia. He tells her that the moment he saw her, she was shining. He tells her that he loves her dearly. She was astonished, as no one scolded her like this before. She fell in true love of Kazuma. Kazuma took off his shirt and asked her to attract him. They both proposed to each other, and he was then a part of her heart. Now the rest was the responsibility of others. Wiz collects a lot of magic power collected from villagers. She transfers it to Megumin and Yunyan. They prepare to launch a final explosion attack on Sylvia. Megumin at first hesitates, as Kazuma is going to give his life, but if she knew advanced magic he shouldn't have. Megumin tells her that he believes in her explosive magic, and that's why he formulated such a plan. At first, they both gave their instructions at first, then they both now take the power and impose their magic spells, which were implemented so aggressively. She says that explosive magic is the stuff of dreams, as it can turn the impossible into possible, but little it did affect Sylvia, as she was stronger and had the protection of the love ring around her. She used the power of dreams and care that weakened the other side. The villagers showed great support to Megumin and Yunyan. Sylvia was so powerful and sure that this magic couldn't take her life. She was sure that she was going to the future and move on further. However, Kazuma took the perfect chance of his popular phase era and manipulated her to let go and go together on the other side. She finally let the field of heart go, and the magic explosion attacked them both, Sylvia and Kazuma. Sylvia later realized that Kazuma toyed with her, but she said she still loved Kazuma. Kazuma replied that it was just his popular phase, and with such a huge effect, Sylvia died. He later said that Aqua buffed his luck many times, which weakened the effect of the explosion magic, but he did die anyways. He later considered it as a risky move, but he was revived. When Kazuma came back, he was greeted jolly by the people. He was considered a star boy among girls, and Orikuramono praised him and said that he deserved all these joys. Kazuma was unaware when his new popular phase would kick in, but he enjoyed every moment. He was later on a picnic with Megumin, Kazuma, Darkness, and Aqua. Kazuma and Megumin sides and practice explosion magic. She blames herself for him to die because she should have learned advanced magic. Kazuma tells her that he's revived and that this doesn't matter anymore. She asks him to change his card to advanced magic, and she was keen to leave explosion magic forever. Kazuma thought this was dumb of her to do so, but still did it. Before she went, he asked him to perform it one last time. When she did so, it was way more dangerous and powerful than the advanced magic. She was surprised and Kazuma gave her thumbs up. She was astonished. She gave herself a new nickname and decided to pursue explosive magic. He then picks her up on his back and takes her. In his mind, he thinks that she is her favorite and most talented mage who could defeat the Devil King's general in a single bow. Then they both get called by Okami to eat, and they both proceed towards the picnic mat. Kazuma writes a letter to his parents about his feats and popularity in the parallel world. Suddenly, he feels something thrust into his peach. To his horror, it's Sylvia, making him wake from the nightmare. The next day, his party notices his strange behavior as he mutters and screams around the mansion. At the guild, he forbids Megumin from drinking bubbly and shrieks when Dust approaches him from behind. Kazuma declares to the girls his intent to become a monk due to the trauma of thinking he was in popular mode. He rejects Aqua's suggestion to join the Axis Order. He asks Luna for a guide pamphlet to a monastery, and encouraged by the ruffian, sets off despite Megumin and Darkness attempts to dissuade him. As the girls follow him, Aqua taunts Kazuma's determination. He insists it's as challenging as climbing a mountain, just like getting someone to love you is for you. Megumin, remembering how Kazuma helped her power up her explosion, tries to mediate between him and Darkness. Frustrated by Kazuma calling her a lowly character, Megumin casts Explosion, blowing up the mountain and shocking everyone. During the camp that night, Kazuma, still haunted by Sylvia, impresses Darkness and Megumin with tales of leading adventurers through glorious overnight battles in his homeland. Aqua realizes he is actually talking about his online gaming exploits. Kazuma stays on watch by the campfire with Megumin while the others sleep. Following a brief conversation about becoming a monk in his homeland, Megumin unexpectedly acts intimate toward Kazuma. Panicking and contemplating, Kazuma finally musters the courage to confess something to her, only to find she has already fallen asleep. The next day, the party treks through forest trails near the monastery. They come across a seemingly injured little girl sitting by the path. Kazuma's enemy detection warns him that the girl is actually a monster in disguise. He recites the pamphlet's advisory about these tranquility girls, stating they should be exterminated on sight. Despite this, his party members are charmed by her innocent appearance and behavior, even after realizing her injury is part of the mimicry. When Kazuma prepares to slay the tranquility girl, his charmed companions stop him. He is then driven to spare the monster when she mutters innocently in a childlike tone. That's how you also get fooled by the girl who claims to love you. Feeling troubled but continuing his journey, Kazuma realizes he can save future travelers by providing the monster with nutrients. He runs back to the Tranquility Girl, hoping she will agree not to ensnare anyone else. However, noticing something off from a distance, Kazuma hides behind a tree. He overhears the Tranquility Girl mumbling to herself fluently, revealing her true insidious nature. She practices speaking innocently in broken sentences and unearths the remains of a traveler she had previously killed. Furious, Kazuma approaches to cut her down. Kazuma buries the remains of the traveler, keeping a small mallet from the body. He rejoins his party and announces his decision not to become a monk. When Aqua tries to examine the mallet, they discover that several gold coins drop out whenever it is swung. Elated, they return to Vaxel. Kazuma, feeling untroubled by Sylvia's phantoms and anticipating newfound wealth, is approached by Chris at the city gate. Before he realizes it, Chris runs off, and Kazuma discovers he no longer has the mallet when he heads back to the mansion with his teammates. Back at the mansion, Kazuma throws a temper tantrum and refuses to go anywhere. He reluctantly teams up with Aqua to drive away the visiting Hagen, fearing trouble. Darkness intervenes to stop them. Her butler hands her a letter, which she reads with fear and tries to hide. Kazuma steals the letter and discovers it's a dinner invitation from Princess Iris, who wants to hear his adventure stories. Despite Darkness attempts to dissuade them due to their lack of etiquette, potentially costing them their heads, The others see this as their moment. Much to her despair, they eagerly accept the invitation. Kazuma imagines Princess Iris as a cute, gentle girl who might call him Big Brother. He makes Darkness wear an erotic maid uniform in exchange for him not wearing a kimono and hakama to the dinner, but her extreme masochism quickly turns him off. He lets her wear her usual clothes instead. Kazuma, Darkness, and Megumin go to Wiz's shop. They sell products Kazuma designed, made with Megumin's help and Darkness connections, like oil lighters with different designs. Wiz offers Darkness and Megumin one for free to thank them for their help, but Kazuma insists Aqua pay since she didn't contribute, useless, just like you. Upset, Aqua blurts out that Kazuma secretly sniffed the girl's clothes, much to his horror. She then performs magic tricks in front of the shop, attracting a huge crowd willing to pay to see more. Vander gets angry because she's disrupting business and has caused trouble before, but Wiz, acting like a proper shopkeeper, manages to organize the crowd to line up for the new products. Vander, pleased that they will soon make a fortune from the Japanese intellectual property, teases Kazuma about his relationship with Megumin. As a gift, he gives Kazuma a black Vander mask, similar to the one he wears. Several days later at the Dustiness mansion where the princess is staying, Kazuma, dressed in a suit, feels uneasy about Aqua and Megumin's inappropriate plans to entertain the princess. Darkness, dressed gorgeously, manages to get the other girls to dress formally despite issues with their outfits and Megumin's hidden explosives. She anxiously reminds everyone how important it is to behave properly. Kazuma hopes the princess might ask him to move in with her. He follows the uneasy Darkness and the others to the meeting. In the dining hall, the party sees Princess Iris, who looks just as Kazuma expected. Darkness stops Aqua and Megumin from doing something inappropriate. Claire, who speaks for the princess, arrogantly tells Kazuma off for disrespectfully looking at Iris and orders him to start telling his adventure stories. Kazuma jokingly talks about trading the princess, which horrifies Darkness. Aqua then creates a realistic sand portrait of Iris, cheering her up. During dinner, Claire, who also knows Mitsurui, asks Kazuma to share his stories. Kazuma tells a glorified account of defeating Sylvia and spins his former life in Japan as a neat into impressive tales of triumph, which impresses the princess. Claire, doubting Kazuma's claim of defeating Mitsurui, asks to see his adventurer card, which contains skills he can't let outsiders see. Megumin tries to divert attention but fails, and Darkness thankfully covers for Kazuma. Kazuma gets irritated when Iris and Claire keep praising Mitsurui's looks. Claire angrily draws her sword at Kazuma for his disrespect, but Darkness steps in to apologize for him. Rain then orders Kazuma's party to leave on behalf of the princess for lying. Megumin, angry at Kazuma being called a liar, controls her temper for Darkness' sake. Darkness then requests that the princess withdraw her statement and apologize to Kazuma. Iris refuses and insults Kazuma further, prompting Darkness to slap her honestly. "I'm into that so it doesn't seem too bad," shocking everyone. Claire, enraged, slashes at Darkness with her sword, but Darkness blocks it with her bare arm. She soothes Iris and continues to defend Kazuma's honor, explaining that he refused to reveal how he defeated Mitsurui. Seeing Darkness stoically defend him, Kazuma agrees to demonstrate what he used against Mitsurui. Claire prepares to challenge him, ignoring Iris' pleas to stop. Kazuma coolly casts Steel, ending up with Claire's panties and getting a beating from an angry Darkness. Claire apologizes after Aqua, who is drunk, heals Darkness' wound with impressive skill. Claire praises Darkness for her toughness and Megumin for her Crimson Demon powers, but still has reservations about Kazuma. At this moment, Iris whispers something to Rain, who advises the princess to speak with Kazuma personally because he has a soft spot for her. Iris, in a big change from before, apologizes to Kazuma and shyly asks to hear more of his adventure stories. Kazuma, touched by her gesture, agrees immediately. Later, as the royal trio gets ready to return to the royal castle, Kazuma's group says goodbye. As Rain starts the teleportation spell, Kazuma suggests they can talk more next time they meet. Surprisingly, Iris grabs him and teleports in with her. Kazuma is surprised to find himself at the entrance of the royal castle, where he can keep sharing his stories. That is when Kazuma is reminded of the royalty's audacity. Claire walks in on Kazuma telling a graphic story to Iris about Darkness washing his back naked. Iris approves and asks for more stories, so Kazuma shares another embarrassing one about Darkness. Claire tries to stop him but fails. At the royal castle, Kazuma is welcomed by servants and guards. Rain explains he's invited, not kidnapped, and asks him to indulge Iris. She explains it's payback against Darkness for slapping her, then asks to play with Kazuma. Kazuma decides to stay and play with Iris, asking his party members to be informed. They share more stories. Kazuma tells Iris about school festivals, and she expresses her desire to go to school. Kazuma suggests she start one. Suddenly, an alarm from the Adventurer Guild warns of another attack by the Devil King's army. Claire joins the defense, and Iris explains that studying is hard during wartime. Kazuma is reminded of how dangerous the world is even in the royal capital. The night raid by the Devil King's army is quickly beaten off by knights and adventurers. Although relieved at the moment because of the rapid defense, Kazuma begins to wish to leave the war zone. Iris suggests having Rain send him somewhere safer, an offer Kazuma considers accepting. However, when Iris mentions her big brother Jadis and how he used to talk like Kazuma, when she actually wants to stay longer, Kazuma asks her to call him Big Brother, to each his own I guess. This prompts him to make up his mind to remain at the castle. Waking up the next morning, Kazuma asks Heidel for coffee, locking Mary as she changes the sheets. When Iris visits, he excitedly stands up, only to reveal that he slept in his trunks due to not having any pajamas with him. Kazuma spends the next few days playing with Iris, which Claire finds annoying. Later, Iris asks him to play a board game, and Kazuma continues until dusk to fix his losing streak. Finally winning, he acts cocky, annoying Iris, but then gives her a bamboo dragonfly. A week after arriving at the royal castle, Kazuma asks Heidel for coffee when he wakes up like he usually does. He hears someone at the door and thinks it's Mary coming to change his sheets, so he tries to flirt with her like nobles do, like I do with your mom. But it's actually his angry party members coming in. Darkness scolds him for his behavior, and Kazuma gets upset that they're there. Darkness reminds him of the trouble he caused and how worried Megumin was. She tries to take him back home, but Kazuma resists and shouts about being Iris' playmate. Even though Darkness says that's not a real job, Aqua is jealous that Kazuma gets to stay at the castle. When Iris walks in, Darkness asks her to let Kazuma go so his friends won't worry. To Kazuma's disappointment, Iris agrees. At the royal banquet, Iris throws that night to bid Kazuma farewell. Aqua and Megumin shamelessly gorge themselves on the feast, making Kazuma feel embarrassed among the royalty and nobility present. He notices a distressed Darkness surrounded by young noblemen asking for her hand in marriage, but Aldarp interrupts, declaring them all unsuitable suitors. Aldarp then confronts Kazuma for blowing up his mansion with the Destroyer's core. Contrary to his usual obsession with Darkness, Aldarp clarifies that only Prince Jadis, currently away at war, is suitable to marry Darkness since she defeated multiple Devil King's generals. Jealous, Kazuma blurts out their intimate relationship and addresses Darkness by her real name. Horrified, Darkness grabs Kazuma, and without hesitation, demonstrates her strength by twisting his arm to silence him in front of the nobleman. Kazuma sulks on the balcony because he's upset that Darkness is getting all the attention at the banquet. Iris joins him and says she'll miss him, even though others don't like him. She likes that he's himself around her, she even compliments his flaws. Iris admits she's jealous of Darkness because she can be close to Kazuma. This makes Kazuma want to do something impressive in the capital so he can stay at the castle. Kazuma hears Iris wanting to be an adventurer like a noble thief who steals from corrupt nobles to help orphanages. Inspired, he rushes back to the ballroom and loudly tells Darkness and Claire about his plan to catch the thief. Despite disapproving comments from nobles, Kazuma claims it's for justice. The nobles applaud him, pretending to be innocent. Iris admires him, and Aqua and Megumin join in cluelessly. However, Claire assigns him to stake out Aldarp's residence, much to his and Kazuma's displeasure. Aldarp is unhappy that Kazuma chose his mansion for the stakeout, and Aqua and Megumin scold Kazuma for causing trouble. After an argument with Megumin, Aldarp tries to make a move on Darkness. When he offers for her to stay as long as she wants, Kazuma and the girls take it literally and rush to grab the best rooms, shocking and angering Aldarp, who feels sorry for the embarrassed Darkness. Kazuma wanders the manor at night, thinking about the noble thief, when he finds Aldarp cleaning a large mirror in a room. He realizes the mirror shows the bathroom where a maid is unaware she's being watched while she mops. Kazuma figures out Aldarp is using it to peek at Darkness. I mean, can't blame him. Kazuma demands to move into the room if Aldarp wants him to keep the mirror a secret. Aldarp, recognizing how Kazuma is just like him, offers to share the mirror. Just as Kazuma is about to agree, Darkness enters. They accuse each other of peeking, and Darkness smashes the mirror and seals the room, reminds me of how your love life is sealed at Aldarp's manor. On the third day, Kazuma wakes to find only Megumin at lunch. She admits she worries about him because he gets into trouble. Later, she invites him on a date involving explosion outside the royal capital. Over the next week, Aqua drinks Aldarp's wine, Megumin boasts about her adventures, and Kazuma enjoys being pampered by the maids. Aldarp, nearing his limit, urges Darkness to leave, and she promises they'll depart the next day. Unable to sleep, Kazuma goes to the kitchen for a snack and finds a thief breaking in. Using his lurk skill, he sneaks up and grabs the thief, only to discover it's a woman. The thief reveals herself as Chris, who, after crying over being groped, is shocked to learn Darkness is also in the building and begs Kazuma to keep it a secret. Chris hides from a guard and tries to explain everything, but Kazuma convinces her to flee by suggesting Aldarp would mistreat her if caught. She agrees and binds Kazuma at his request to fake his innocence. Kazuma's party finds him bound in the kitchen, where he lies about a skilled masked thief to impress Megumin. Aqua, Darkness, and Megumin tease Kazuma for different things, knowing he can't do anything in this situation instead of unbinding him. When Aldarp arrives, Kazuma begs for help. The next day, in one of the royal castle's audience rooms, Kazuma and his party report the incident. Rain slams Kazuma, and Claire mocks him for failing to capture the thief. The nobles also discreetly criticize him. Iris defends Kazuma, saying he stopped the theft, but Claire still declares Kazuma evicted from the castle. While Kazuma, missing Iris, accompanies Aqua shopping for souvenirs. They are approached by Mitsurugi, though Aqua forgets who he is, and Kazuma calls him by the wrong name. Mitsurugi gives a diamond ring to Aqua, which angers Kazuma. The situation becomes awkward when Aqua finds the ring too small for her. In the end that night, Chris wakes Kazuma up and he pretends to capture a thief to touch her. Game is game. She scolds him for it and then brings up a matter she needs his help with, despite Kazuma initially refusing to listen. She explains about divine items wielded by people like him with unusual features and names, which Kazuma realizes are items brought by other Japanese reincarnates. He gets angry when he figures out that Chris stole the magic mallet. Chris apologizes and reveals she detected a divine item in the royal castle. She asks Kazuma for help retrieving it due to his useful skills, but he refuses, frightened by the idea of committing a crime. He scares Chris off by threatening to use his bind skill on her. Later, frustrated with his luck, Kazuma considers joining the Eris Order if the goddess Eris can grant him a peaceful life. Just as Kazuma tries to sleep, an alarm warns of another Devil King's army attack. Darkness urgently bangs on his door for help with defense, but Kazuma insists on sleeping, leaving the fighting to stronger adventurers. Aqua also refuses to go to the dangerous war zone, while Megumin recklessly declares she'll defeat the Devil King's forces before the kingdom's troops arrive, needing to be restrained by Darkness. While Kazuma considers avoiding the battle, he sees an opportunity to regain respect and return to the castle by participating. Dressing quickly and claiming he's ready to save the kingdom, he surprises his party, including a reluctant Aqua, as they head towards the city gate. As the Devil King's army prepares to attack the royal capital, Kazuma and his party arrive at the royal castle where soldiers and adventurers are gathering. The local adventurer guild rejects Kazuma due to his low-level relatable, but Claire allows him to join because of his past victories. This news cheers up nearby adventurers who heard of his feats. Iris and Rain watch admiringly from a balcony. Aqua worries about their chances due to Megumin and Darkness behavior, but Kazuma reassures her before they follow Claire into battle. After an intense battle, Kazuma sits in front of Eris, feeling embarrassed. He explains that the fight started well, but things went wrong when he teased Aqua for being bitten by a kobold. This angered her, and she used her powerful attacks on other monsters. Kazuma then chased a kobold but fell into an ambush by many others who killed him. Eris is upset with Kazuma for sexual harassment, recalling an incident with one of her thief followers. Kazuma tries to explain but only makes Eris angrier by mistaking Chris for a man due to her appearance. He begs for forgiveness and Eris teases him before asking for his help to find the missing divine items given to Japanese reincarnates by Aqua. Resurrected by Aqua after being killed by kobolds, Kazuma thinks about the divine items Eris wants him to retrieve. One item can summon monsters randomly at a cost, and the other lets users swap bodies temporarily, causing chaos. He watches Darkness praised for tanking enemy spells and drawing attention away from enemy troops. Megumin, named MVP, annihilates the enemy commander and his retreating troops with her powerful magic. Knights admire Megumin for defeating many of Devil King's generals with her explosion magic. They ask her to show advanced magic, but she tries to avoid it and calls for Kazuma's help. As Kazuma carries Megumin to the royal castle for the victory banquet, he is asked to leave for Axel in the morning. Later, Iris greets Kazuma as Big Brother, surprising Megumin. Kazuma admits he died once, shocking Iris, who lets them stay in his castle bedroom. While enjoying the luxurious life, Megumin talks about preferring their life in Axel. Iris then informs Kazuma that Claire opposes him staying, leaving Megumin feeling left out of the conversation. She notices Iris wearing a powerful magical necklace. Iris explains she's holding the necklace for her absent brother Jadis, to whom it was originally gifted. She shows them the script on its back, which needs to be spoken for the necklace's magic to work. Kazuma recognizes it as Japanese and says the words aloud, causing the necklace to glow brightly. Later, Iris speaks in Kazuma's voice, and Kazuma speaks in Iris's voice, surprising Megumin. Realizing they've switched bodies, Kazuma feels nostalgic for his old body, but accepts being in a beautiful girl's body. They try repeating the necklace's keyword to switch back without success. Iris is excited about adventuring as a male, but Megumin advises against it. Remembering Iris's talk about divine items, Kazuma reassures them the switch is temporary. Iris asks to go out in Kazuma's body, with Megumin offering to accompany her. Kazuma reluctantly agrees, worried about Megumin teaching Iris to haggle and fight. After switching bodies with Iris, Kazuma enjoys the respect of the castle staff. Claire suspects Kazuma taught Iris something inappropriate as he notices something off with the princess, but Kazuma defends himself. They meet Mitsurugi, whom Claire thanks for his help in battle. Mitsurugi touches Iris's head, irritating Kazuma, who orders Mitsurugi's execution for disrespect. He retracts it after Mitsurugi pleads for forgiveness and sends him away. Kazuma asks about Darkness's whereabouts to tease her, then discovers she's bathing. Eagerly he offers to wash her back. He never misses, and Claire reluctantly agrees after he offers to wash hers too. They head to the bathroom but find Darkness already finished. Despite this, Darkness agrees to let Iris wash her back after she expresses her desire cutely. Seeing Darkness and Claire undressing in front of him without hesitation surprises Kazuma. He decides to join them, ignoring worries about being discovered in Iris's body. This makes him understand why Japanese reincarnates desire a divine item that switches bodies. Kazuma is suddenly surrounded by tough guys ready to fight him. Confused, he finds himself back in his own body on the streets. With that luck, I'd never step out of the house again. Hearing Megumin encourage Iris to insult the thug's leader, Kazuma is stunned and unable to react as he gets punched. Iris discovers her undressed body, upsetting her. Kazuma, fleeing thugs with Megumin, vents to Iris about his bad luck. At the victory banquet, Aqua scolds him, Iris is furious, and the nobles insult him. Claire orders him to leave the capital by tomorrow. Distraught, Kazuma returns to the inn in tears. In his room, upset by Claire's words, Chris visits Kazuma. He initially dismisses her, but learns the divine necklace can grant immortality through permanent body swaps if one person dies during the switch. You should volunteer to be the one dying with that life. Chris warns against exposing its power to avoid nobles seizing it. She suggests they entertain the princess instead. Outside the royal castle, where the occupants are busy with celebrations, Chris and Kazuma, both in black outfits and masks, prepare to infiltrate. They briefly argue over leadership, settling it with a rock-paper-scissors game which Kazuma loses, making him the assistant. Setting their sights on Iris' bedroom at the top of the tallest tower, Kazuma uses his snipe skill to loop a rope over the castle walls. They sneak through the courtyard using lurk to hide from guards. Kazuma, upon getting an enemy detection, flattens Chris onto the walls, but in the process purposefully nudges her breasts and causes her to scream, which in turn alerts nearby soldiers of their presence. Fleeing from pursuers in the castle, Kazuma and Chris argue as they run upstairs. Kazuma uses his create water skill and then freezes it, causing soldiers to slip and fall. Chris sets a wire trap to block off their pursuers. They encounter Claire and Rain with more soldiers ahead, prompting Chris to suggest retreating. Despite facing expulsion from the royal capital, the next day, Kazuma insists on finishing the job. Remembering his time with Iris and their balcony conversation at the farewell banquet, he decides to take things seriously. Fleeing from Claire's attacks, Kazuma uses Drain Touch to drain her power until she collapses, surprising everyone including Chris, whom Kazuma keeps in the dark about Drain Touch's origins as a lich ability. Feeling confident due to the mask's effects, he uses Drain Touch on the soldier reinforcements, while jokingly referring to themselves as the Silver-Haired Thief Brigade to downplay their involvement. Chris, noticing Rain healing Claire, stops Kazuma from casting lightning with Skill Bind. Mitsurugi cuts through Chris' wire trap and confronts Kazuma, leaving Chris for others to handle. Kazuma freezes Mitsurugi's sword, causing him to slip on the ice and then choke on created water. Claire attacks Kazuma, who dodges and advises her to help Mitsurugi first. With Chris' wire trap holding off soldiers, Kazuma opens the door to Iris' bedroom, where darkness awaits. He quickly closes the door that an irritated darkness opens, but she pauses upon recognizing the thieves. The princess, armed and determined, steps forward to fight but is interrupted by Megumin's fascination with Kazuma's mask. Kazuma then binds Darkness and Megumin together, but Aqua, in a drunken state, frees them with a spell. As Aqua talks about getting more rewards, it angers Kazuma. Mitsurugi, Claire, and other reinforcements approach, so Kazuma and Chris decide to steal from Iris in her bedroom. Darkness tries to capture them, but they dodge and break past her with a side slash, charging towards Iris to steal something from her. As they dash towards the window and jump into the moat below, Aqua tries to seal them with her powers, but they escape. Watching the thieves get away, Darkness notices Iris sadly touching her empty hand. At the inn, Darkness scolds Kazuma and Chris for not discussing the divine item earlier. Kazuma shows Darkness Iris' stolen ring and is warned to keep it hidden for Iris' future husband. In an audience with the princess, Darkness explains the necklace's danger. Kazuma feels miserable when Claire insults him, but Iris hints she knows the thieves' identities. Claire and Rain praise the masked thief's skills. Iris starts to admire the noble thief, and Darkness stops Kazuma from revealing more, teasing about the one with silver hair. Before bidding farewell, Iris asks Kazuma for something. Darkness announces Kazuma as the one to defeat the Devil King, and Iris wishes him luck. Megumin and Iris playfully argue. Back at their mansion, Kazuma complains about being sidelined by Darkness's declaration. Megumin writes a fan letter to the masked thief, "Can't miss no opportunities in this economy." Aqua drinks and Darkness advises Kazuma to give up on Iris. Claire and Rain apologize for the stolen ring, and Iris considers a tradition where heroes marry the princess after defeating the Devil King, then wishes for Kazuma to take good care of the ring. In his manor's dark basement, Aldarp angrily berates a figure, furious that his divine item was stolen and sealed, expressing frustration over his unfulfilled wish. Kazuma's party gets rich with 300 million Eris from the guild for defeating Sylvia. They celebrate by treating everyone to drinks. Later, at a fancy restaurant, Kazuma and Aqua cause a scene by critiquing the chef, and they both pretend to be cultured rich gourmets despite them wrongly guessing the ingredients. Fake it till you make it, I guess. Subsequent to leaving behind the meal payment that they call a generous tip. Back home, they find Darkness and Megumin in a hot room, Megumin teasing Darkness with ice. Kazuma and Aqua jokingly bless their love, prompting Megumin to frantically explain. After learning Darkness was training for a heat endurance contest, Kazuma suggests she do it at her family's home, but Darkness is reluctant to do so due to her father's health. He then teases her as payback for her torturing him when he was bound. Later, he sees Aqua putting magic into what she believes is a dragon's egg she bought with all her reward money when she was alone, naming it Emperor Zell. Kazuma realizes she just got duped by a chicken egg. The next day, Megumin sits in front of the fireplace warming the egg in Aqua's place, so that the goddess who denies her egg being that of a chicken will agree on accompanying Kazuma and Darkness to Wiz's shop. When they arrive, Aqua loudly bangs on the door, irritating Vanner. He explains that Wiz was overworked to prevent her from bankrupting the shop with purchases from Huazaburo. Despite good sales, she went delirious and had to be put to rest, especially after Beldia called out to her. Vanner offers to tell Darkness's fortune for free, warning of a fate of destruction hanging over her. After Kazuma asks further about how she vents her desires, Darkness reluctantly agrees to have her fortune divined by placing her hand on a crystal ball as Vanner requests. Under questioning, she admits to lightening her armor due to her abs splitting and adding weight, and to imagining wearing Megumin's cute dress found in the laundry. She loses her composure when Vanner asks about wearing revealing clothes around Kazuma, realizing it's unrelated to the fortune-telling, just a distraction until the crystal ball reveals its answer. Vanner calms down Darkness, advising her that her future holds destruction for her household due to a calamity involving her father. He warns that her attempts to sacrifice herself won't bring happiness to anyone. Despite Vanner's suggestion to flee and start anew with Kazuma, whom he criticizes, Darkness decides not to run. Later, as Darkness checks on her family residence, Vanner advises Kazuma not to settle with his current wealth, but to create more products to sell, suggesting it might give him a chance to help Darkness in the future. The next day, Kazuma is grooming Chomosuke when Darkness, who had him worried by staying out all night, bursts in urgently asking him to accept a lucrative quest against the Kowloon Hydra, a powerful monster awakening soon under a lake near Axel. Kazuma hesitates due to the Hydra's strength. Darkness persists, emphasizing the threat to the town, and despite Kazuma's reluctance due to his wealth, she promises him a kiss on the cheek as a reward if he wins. Kazuma taunts her about the lack of value of the reward, but she tearfully convinces him to agree. Megumin excitedly declares her ambition to become a dragon slayer at the lake. Kazuma and Darkness try to keep Aqua from running away, as she insists on hatching Emperor Zell and protests leaving her at Wiz's shop. They need Aqua's help to lure out the Kowloon Hydra. Aqua later plays in the lake to purify the water, hoping to provoke the Hydra's appearance. Kazuma explains Aqua's extraordinary powers by referring to her status as a proclaimed goddess. They soon sense the Kowloon Hydra's magical presence as it surfaces near where Aqua is sleeping. They frantically scream to wake her up but are shocked by the monster's enormous size, resembling that of a small island. Aqua, unable to escape in time, panics and shrieks from one of the Hydra's heads she finds herself trapped on. Eris playfully mocks Kazuma about his death. Aqua uses Resurrect to bring Kazuma back to life. He wakes up to find himself covered in slime from the Kowloon Hydra, which dissolved all his clothes and gear except for Chunchunmura. Megumin, lying weakly nearby, complains to Aqua about her calling the katana's name weird. Kazuma tries to cheer up Darkness, who had jumped into the Hydra's stomach to retrieve him by cleaning off the slime, but Aqua scolds him for being naked, and Megumin teases him about being a pervert. After returning to Axel wrapped in Megumin's cloak, Kazuma and the others head to the guild where Aqua reports their failed quest. At this point, there should be a guild where you can report all your failed love quests. Meanwhile, Kazuma and Darkness go to wash off the slime at their mansion. Later, in the bathroom, Kazuma wonders if his body, which had been partly dissolved by the Hydra, was fully restored, especially his important parts. Outside the door, Darkness apologizes and Kazuma tries to reassure her, suggesting they plan to fight the Hydra another day. Despite initial hesitation, when Kazuma urges her to fulfill her duty as a knight, Darkness resolves her determination to slay the Hydra. When Kazuma and Darkness arrive at the guild, they find chaos. Aqua and Megumin are being questioned by Morgan, Sakamaki, and Yunyan about provoking the Kowloon Hydra. Luna informs them that knights from the royal capital, meant to fight the Hydra, are delayed searching for the silver-haired thief brigade. Kazuma and Darkness nervously observe their wanted poster, while the receptionist discreetly informs them of a Crimson Demon fortune teller identifying the culprits in Axel. The large reward catches everyone's attention, and Luna asks Kazuma, especially, to help catch the thieves so the knights can focus on the Hydra. Several days later, Kazuma stays home to avoid capture, petting Chomosuke. Aqua tries prenatal education on Emperor Zell's egg with lullabies. Megumin and Darkness suggest using repeated explosions against the Kowloon Hydra's regenerative abilities. Aqua refuses due to Lich's draining powers. Megumin seeks revenge for the Hydra killing Kazuma. During the rainy season, Megumin and Darkness attempt daily explosions on the Hydra, but fail to harm it permanently. Kazuma lazily handles Chomosuke, injuring Darkness. After more days of attempts, the Hydra outsmarts them, swallowing Darkness in a surprise attack. Aqua heals her back at the mansion. Despite Kazuma's advice, Darkness sneaks out again the next morning. Kazuma finally makes up his mind to take matters into his own hands, while the ruffian mumbles about the weather making his old wound act up. Darkness reluctantly heads towards the lake despite Aqua and Megumin trying to stop her, but is surprised to find Kazuma leading other adventurers from Axel catching up. Initially angry at Kazuma for revealing her real name, she becomes grateful when she learns he enlisted their help. Later, Aqua blesses the adventurers, and preparations are made. Kazuma directs them to start their plan. Darkness distracts the Hydra while thieves bind its heads with steel wire and iron balls. Archers shoot hooked arrows to create more connections, allowing adventurers to safely drag the Hydra towards shore. Kazuma uses a springboard to launch himself onto the Hydra's back, where he drains its magical power with Drain Touch. Despite this, the Hydra bucks him off and tries to crush him. Darkness arrives just in time to shield Kazuma from the Hydra's weight. Kazuma continues draining the Hydra's power, which Darkness had weakened over several days of battle. While the other adventurers struggle to restrain the Hydra, Dust ignores warnings and gets eaten. This distraction allows Kazuma to rescue Darkness. Union uses Light of Saber to decapitate the Hydra, freeing Dust. With the Hydra unable to regenerate, Kazuma directs wizards to empower Megumin, who defeats the Hydra with an explosion. Back at the guild, adventurers praise Kazuma's leadership. Dust, resurrected by Aqua, is mocked by his party. Megumin and Union argue over their contributions. Darkness resolves to face challenges for the town she loves. Aqua pesters Dust for more praise until he shoves her to Kazuma. Later, Kazuma, Aqua, and Megumin party into the night. Returning home, they find only Chomusuke and a letter from Darkness, thanking them for their adventures and leaving the party for good. Kazuma, Megumin, and Aqua protest Darkness leaving their party at her mansion but are forced to flee when guards are called. At home, Aqua teases Kazuma about designing products for Darkness. Later, Kazuma tries to recruit a new party member but fails due to Megumin purposefully boasts of her bad reputation as a crazy explosion girl. Dust urgently seeks Kazuma's help upon learning Rin has a boyfriend. They stake out an inn where Rin's seen with the guy, overhearing him confess his love and ask for a compromising photo using his magic camera. "I have a magic camera. In case your mom wants to volunteer," Kazuma stops Dust from confronting the noble immediately. While Rin takes the noble to eat, Dust breaks into his room, finds lingerie, and wears it himself to shock the noble. They end up taking photos, which Rin catches them doing. Rin decides to let the noble have his way. Both Rin and Kazuma leave them alone and head out. Dust declares it a matter between two men in which the status of a noble means nothing. Yet the noble instead expresses gratitude for having joined the Axis Order. Before thanking Lady Aqua for his dream of seeing his beloved Dust posing in lingerie come true, Rin reveals the noble's love for Dust to Kazuma, and they decide to pretend nothing happened. On the way back, Rin mentions Darkness' impending marriage to Aldarp, which Kazuma presses her for details on. Back at the mansion, Kazuma shares the news, making Aqua upset over Vanner's accurate prediction. Despite his skepticism, Kazuma decides to ask Darkness about the marriage himself. Later that night, Kazuma buffs himself with Aqua's magic and sneaks into the Dustiness mansion alone. Inside the mansion, Kazuma hides from a guard named Norris who investigates the noise at his entry. Seeing the guards head to the kitchen, Kazuma considers impersonating them to arrange food delivery to Darkness' room. Using Aqua's versatile entertainer spell, he mimics Norris' voice and entertains himself by speaking in various voices. Kazuma resumes his search for Darkness. Darkness is awakened by a maid delivering a snack ordered by Norris, but she sends it away since she didn't order it. When Kazuma threatens to reveal her embarrassing secrets, Darkness initially refuses to see him. However, she changes her mind upon hearing Kazuma mention her secrets to the household staff. Embarrassed, Darkness opens the door, shocked to find Kazuma outside. He enters her room, covering her mouth. He asks her to not scream when he uncovers her mouth, but she does exactly that. As guards approach, Kazuma uses Darkness' voice to mislead them, claiming she was playing adult games alone and is in an indecent state. Screaming in pain from Darkness squeezing his wrist, Kazuma deflects attention by claiming she forgot to turn off a magical toy. Guards leave embarrassed. Darkness reveals her family owes money to Aldarp and she must marry the governor to repay it. Kazuma finally comprehends why she was so intent on defeating the Kowloon Hydra with only their party instead of other adventurers who ended up diminishing their share of rewards. Kazuma offers to help, but Darkness refuses, citing noble duty. Darkness places Kazuma's hand on her belly and offers herself to him before her forced marriage. But Kazuma blurts out her ripped abs, injuring her. Then infuriated Darkness accordingly begins to beat him up, then at Kazuma further mimicking her voice to claim nakedness. When alarmed guards once again gather at the door, Darkness shuts him up and permits the guards in. Kazuma blinds the guards with a combination of Create Earth and Wind Breath before lurking away. He hides from Darkness and finds Ignis, who suggests eloping with Darkness despite her anger. Kazuma tries to involve Aqua to heal Ignis, but learns her magic doesn't work on illnesses. Darkness interrupts, arguing with Kazuma over embarrassing her and refusing his help with the debt. Kazuma dashes towards the window while yelling taunts at Darkness, but instead awkwardly falls out since the window is too sturdy to outright break, over which Darkness taunts him in return, yelling as he scales the fence out about how he won't save Darkness unless she comes begging in tears. The injured Kazuma manages to stumble back to his mansion where the others are sleeping, before tearfully begging for Aqua's healing. As Aldarp advertises his wedding with Darkness around Axel, Kazuma sulks in his mansion, ignoring Megumin's pleas to rescue Darkness unless she begs for help. He gets irritated when Megumin pops his bubble wrap to relieve stress. Kazuma receives a threatening letter from Hagen, written by Megumin, warning of an explosion at the wedding. He lectures Megumin about her criminal intent. Several days later, Hagen summons Kazuma again to stop Aqua from disturbing Ignis by trying to lure Darkness outside with tricks at the Dustiness mansion gates. After Megumin returned home following her release from jail for sending threatening letters, Kazuma scolded her during dinner. Instead of accepting responsibility, Megumin exploded in anger, accusing Kazuma of just waiting around for Darkness to beg for help. On the day of Darkness' wedding, Kazuma stays at the mansion, working on new inventions to stop Megumin from disrupting the ceremony with explosions. When criticized for allowing Darkness to marry Aldarp, Kazuma angrily reveals what he learned. Aldarp has a history of coercing and abandoning women, but there's no solid proof. Kazuma admits he feels powerless as a commoner to stop the wedding, relying on Darkness to seek his help. After feeling powerless, Kazuma is surprised when Vanner arrives with a business proposal. Vanner offers to buy all of Kazuma's intellectual property in exchange for a bag of money. Kazuma, torn between saving Darkness and fearing her rejection, eventually accepts. During the inspection of Kazuma's inventions, Vanner reassures him that their goals align. Before Kazuma can ask about the Dustiness household's debt or Aldarp's crimes, Aqua interrupts with her sacred exorcism, forcing Vanner to regenerate. After Hayden leaves, Vanner tells Kazuma and Aqua that Darkness' debt began when adventurers destroyed the mobile fortress destroyer, which had devastated towns, leaving governors and commoners homeless. Although Axel itself was spared, the surrounding farmlands and irrigation were badly damaged. Farmers, refused help by Aldarp, sought aid from the Dustiness family, who had previously paid for flood damages caused by adventurers battling Beldia, forcing them to sell off most of their assets. Kazuma and Aqua are stunned as Vanner explains that Darkness agreed to borrow money from Aldarp, using her body as collateral if her family couldn't repay. Angry and desperate, Kazuma asks Vanner the exact amount of the debt, which turns out to be the money in Vanner's bag plus Kazuma's life savings. Meanwhile, in the bridal preparation room at the Church of Eris, Darkness, dressed in bridal attire, receives compliments on her beauty from new maids who are unaware of the sorrow behind her impending marriage. She overhears a butler stopping Aldarp from entering despite his threats, and thanks the butler, who reveals that he plans to quit anyway rather than serve Aldarp, and advises her not to play too intensely by herself before taking his leave. Reminded of the scandal caused by her mimicked voice, the embarrassed Darkness reflects on her year of joyful adventuring with the Axel adventurers. Thinking about her former party members' possible reactions to her debt, she dismisses the idea of Kazuma showing up. However, Hagen soon informs her that the wedding ceremony, overseen by the city's most powerful priests, is about to begin. Inside the chapel, nearby nobles and other notable figures, including the ruffian, fill the pews despite little interest in the ceremony. Outside, Aldarp's guards prevent curious adventurers from entering to see Darkness in her bridal attire. As Darkness walks down the aisle with Hagen in place of the ailing Ignis, her beauty captivates everyone present. Meanwhile, Aldarp eagerly awaits the end of the blessings at the altar, looking forward to the ceremony's completion. To everyone's surprise, the masked priest conducting the ceremony is revealed to be Aqua, whose blessings turn out to be mocking remarks aimed at Aldarp. Enraged, Aldarp reacts loudly, but then Kazuma, disguised under a hood, steps forward. He internally muses about the audacity of his actions, addressing his parents in his thoughts about kidnapping an heiress and challenging the most powerful man in the region. Finally, he tells Darkness to leave with him. Darkness scolds Kazuma for interfering in a noble's wedding, prompting Kazuma to confront her about paying his debts. Aldarp challenges Kazuma to buy Darkness from him with her owed money, leading Kazuma to scatter 2 billion eris from a nearby vase all over the church. While Aldarp and other guests scramble to collect the scattered money, Darkness is shocked to learn that Kazuma sold his intellectual property rights and emptied his savings to pay off her debt. Despite Aldarp's crude demand for repayment, Darkness is overwhelmed with gratitude, prompting Kazuma to carry her out of the church. As guards try to stop their escape, Kazuma calls Darkness muscular, and she tears up her wedding dress to fight them off. Kazuma uses Aqua's spell to mimic Aldarp's voice, distracting the guards. They are blocked by a giant guard, but Megumin and Yunyan arrive, causing chaos with explosion magic and allowing the group to escape. Megumin releases the magic circles into the air and sends the people in the vicinity into a panic. Moved by Megumin's unexpected help, Darkness receives Kazuma's advice to stop acting alone and rely on their group. Megumin unleashes an explosion to clear their path, causing chaos but minimizing damage. Despite being mocked for hiding behind Darkness, Kazuma urges everyone to escape as Aldarp's guards chase after the five. The gang then hears Keith, who claims Aldarp's guards hurt him, starting a fight with other adventurers joining in. Dusk complains about the governor's men, causing chaos. Kazuma plans to drink with the adventurers again for their help once again and escapes while Aldarp yells in the background. Back at the Dustiness mansion, Darkness leads her party past surprised guards straight to Ignis' side. She confesses about wrecking the wedding, but Ignis rejoices. He compliments Darkness's beauty like her mother's and calls Kazuma to his bedside. Megumin leaves to join Union outside, while Aqua stays behind. Ignis thanks Kazuma and offers Darkness's hand in marriage, but Kazuma declines, feeling it's a punishment. Ignis is relieved, knowing Kazuma will care for Darkness. Darkness expresses happiness with her friends, even if it means giving up everything. Ignis encourages her to forge her own path as he nears the end. Tearfully, they talk about Darkness's late mother, and Kazuma struggles to hold back his emotions. Aqua casts a sacred break spell on Ignis, curing him of his curse and saving his life. She cheerfully boasts about her powers, oblivious to the awkwardness of the others who were recently mourning. Ignis is relieved and looks forward to sharing more stories about Darkness's mother. Meanwhile, in his mansion's basement, Aldarp angrily berates Max, believing him to be a worthless demon despite his powers. Max informs Aldarp that someone broke the curse on Ignis, frustrating Aldarp's plans. He orders Max to adjust the memories of the wedding attendees to justify his actions, but Max reveals that the light that broke the curse is preventing his demon powers. Aldarp decides to end their contract but demands Max bring Lalatina to him in exchange for what he owes. Lalatina appears and apologizes, prompting Aldarp to eagerly agree to free Max and pay him. However, when he tries to take Lalatina, her body transforms into a laughing Vanner, shocking Aldarp. Vanner, disguised as Kazuma, reveals himself as a demon to Aldarp and plans to take Maxwell, another demon, back to Hell. He explains Maxwell's identity as a Duke of Hell and comments on Aldarp's luck for summoning him. Vanner mocks Aldarp for his arrogance and lack of preparation in dealing with demons. Vanner reminds Aldarp of his promise to pay Maxwell's price, which frees the forgetful demon. This was Vanner's goal when he helped Kazuma pay off the debt and exposed Aldarp's misdeeds. Vanner then jokes about returning to work for the shopkeeper, but Maxwell demands the emotional price Aldarp owes. He breaks Aldarp's arm to begin extracting his negative emotions, revealing that only Aldarp himself, not anyone in his household, will pay this price. Darkness surprises Kazuma, Megumin, and Aqua with news that Aldarp has disappeared and his crimes exposed. Kazuma, who had brought Darkness to save her, stops Aqua from elaborating further. Kazuma, in addition to Megumin and Aqua, are told that the bags they had packed for fleeing are no longer needed. Darkness apologizes for her actions and reveals the kingdom will reimburse Kazuma for his expenses. Kazuma gets his 2 billion heiress back and jokingly calls Aqua and Megumin bitches when they butter him up for favors. They dismiss Darkness' farewell letter, but Kazuma welcomes her back. At the guild, various antics unfold. Luna enrolls adventurers, Ruffian drinks nearby, Union builds a card house, Wiz tries selling a pendant, Vanner scares crows, and Chris donates loot. Kazuma stirs trouble by hinting about Darkness's advances, leading to a tense moment. Later, they discuss marriage procedures, mocking Darkness as a divorced ness.